Shirt show. All right, let's go.
Shirt show! Talking shirt! Shirt show! Talking shirt! Shirt show! Talking shirt! Shirt show! Shirt, man! All right! Episode 92 of Shirt Show. We're talking with Val from Night Owls in Texas. Let's go!
There he is.
Hey, Boo.
Hey there.
Sorry, I am late. I just had an intense sneeze attack.
I'd say God bless you, but obviously you already did.
Should we do this properly? Like, are we recording? Are things...
Can you hear me?
No.
Why not? Hey, wait. Is it working? Is it really not working?
Yes. Yeah, you're good.
Oh, okay, cool. So I want to hear all about your eventful week. Don't hold back.
I'm still recovering from my sneeze attack and also this week. Honestly, that's what I've been doing this whole weekend. I mean...
Sneezing?
No, that would be bad. No, just recovering from a crazy ass week.
Okay.
Because, dude, so a week ago, we were coming off of a snowstorm, another one. Yep. And I'm going to give you the abbreviated version because really
holy shit. Andy's giving the abbreviated version.
It's too painful to go through this again. Okay. But
right.
Monday, our goal was that at the end of the day, Monday, we'd have one of the Cobras going, right? Spin the dryer and then move the Cobra, turn it on, and it works. And it did. So we had 2 presses then.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And that was the Cobra that you already had.
Cobra we already had. And spinning the dryer is way more than just, hey, let's spin the dryer. Because once you spin the dryer, you have to run up power to it. You have to run gas to it. You have to rerun the ductwork and all that shit. Yeah. So we did all that. And you know what that's like when you have contractors there and they're standing there and the time clock is ticking, it's costing money. And then they're like, so where do you want the dryer? And I'm like, well, I want the dryer.
Where do you want this dryer? Because I'm $120 an hour.
Yeah. But you want to make sure that our dryer is exactly right. Because if it's too far this way, that's bad. If it's too far this way, that's bad. Where do you want the press? Well, we want the press 30 inches, the offload station 30 inches from the dryer belt and not 29 and not 31. And so to get it just right, everything has to, and then it's permanent because you screw that shit down to the floor, And so that's not stressful at all. The permanency.
No.
Is it? Yeah. And so all these questions, I answered 99 questions, but in the midst of all that, moving the dryer and moving the press and all that, we got 5 crates on a semi, 5 crates of the new press. And
how did your forklift skills go?
Well, I'm not very good at it because I only do it once a year, maybe, but nobody died. So
you had to have people stand on the back of the forklift?
Yes. Well, sit, stand, several people. Yeah, because, you put the extenders on and the way the crates come, it's just, they're too heavy. It's heavy as shit, and long. It's heavy and long.
I know the feeling.
And so,
come on. This is supposed to be a short story.
Oh. So the best part about the forklift, because you asked me about my forklift skills, the best part is when when the truck came to pick up the Sportsman that was sold, it backed in and the guy's like, how many feet, how long are those crates? And I told him how many, because there was 3, I think. And he's like, oh shit. So he had me offload his semi with stuff, I don't know, all kinds of pallets so that we could put the Sportsman on
first
and then reload the semi. Yeah. I offloaded his semi in the parking lot.
Perfect.
I was lifting up pallets of stuff that wasn't mine, I didn't even know whose it was. Some of them were rice Nutri-Grain bars or something, big giant pallets of them.
And you didn't keep any for yourself?
It might be a pallet
Nice.
Might be a pellet here. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know. You know what it's like.
Yeah.
You know what it's like.
It's super stressful.
It's super stressful. And not only that, like you're climbing on top of things, climbing under things, you know, trying to rehook up air, trying to disconnect this. It was just.
And then the worst part is just uncrating. That is my least favorite part of the whole process.
Dude, it's for real. You know, it's a workout. It's not, that's wrong way to put it. It's a marathon. Ooh, that's better.
Ooh.
Yeah. It's what it is.
So you feel better now? Is everything uncrated and ready?
Oh yeah. So as of Friday, I should say end of day Thursday, all 3 presses. So the new Cobra is running. Yeah. It's not perfect. It needs some tweaking still. Like,
you already had it installed?
Yeah.
Oh shit. I didn't know that.
Yeah. It's on. It's on and printing shirts. So we printed shirts all day Friday on it. It just needs, so it's the only one right now, you know, that has those membrane switches, and it's shipped without the proper software for all of that. It still works, but it's not, the global part of it doesn't work yet. And so Igor is coming down tomorrow, and he's bringing us also a second tri-sync pallet, because you bought the one from Joe that I wanted. I offered 201. You bought it for $200 and I offered 201.
I offered your body and sold.
That's right. That's right. So I
got you guys a room in Atlantic City.
Oh, okay. All right.
Thanks for that pallet.
Yep. But hey, I thought I would show you something that I got from Joe at Sportique Screen Print.
Mm-hmm. Does it say screen printer on duty?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Mine's beautiful as well.
I got that and
some alien jerky.
Sure as shit did.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we got 3 bags of it.
But yeah, fuck, dude, those signs rule.
Right. Yeah.
Signs super nice.
Yeah, I'm trying to decide where I'm going to put it. Yeah, thank you, Joe. I don't know where it's going to go. I think I'm
going to hang mine in my office, like right above my desk.
Yeah, but you have to be a screen printer.
Yeah, fuck, I forgot.
Oh, yeah.
I'll put a little non-sticker in the beginning.
That's a knife, if you didn't know. It's a knife. It's a knife. So check this out.
Mm-hmm. Hey, did you get that email I sent you last week that you never responded to?
No.
With the postcards that I made?
Actually, in all seriousness, no.
Remember after we talked to Brett, one of the things we talked about were those cards that they would fill out in the shop, like if they messed up a shirt?
No.
You don't remember this entire conversation we had with Brett?
No.
Oh. So anyway, we were talking about how at QC at the end of the dryer, if they found a shirt that got messed up or a couple shirts that got messed up, they would fill out this card and they would take the card into purchasing or whatever and say, hey, I messed these up. And then they would log it to where it would say,
yeah,
you know, they would find out their spoilage throughout the year.
Yes.
I made some and they came in. This is the front of them. So at the top it says, oops, I fucked up. And then here's all the info they would need to fill out. And then on the back, it says, what the fuck happened? And then they have to fill that out.
I don't know. I feel like that's a little passive aggressive.
That's how we do it here.
Because, you know, accidents happen.
Yeah, but they still know that they fucked up. So they can fill this card out.
I don't know. I liked it at first and now I don't, because
you would.
That doesn't work for, like, if there's a hole in a shirt.
They can still fill the card out.
Oops, I fucked up. I printed a shirt with a hole in it.
Yeah. It's called humor, Andy. Try it once in a while.
Okay. Yeah. It's called lawsuit, Dylan. Try it. So, hey, Andy, thanks for answering my questions. New Press is a game changer for us. Really enjoy Shirt Show every week. It's helped us grow over the last year. Thanks, Mark. And this is pretty cool.
Mark.
He's got no, he said Andy.
Oh, well, but fuck you, Mark.
Well, I think, okay, so let me clarify this. He was saying thank you because I answered some personal questions.
About
and but then he is thanking you for Shirt Show. So yeah, that's a dual.
Obviously.
And then there is some stickies.
A couple stickies, couple pasties.
Check that out.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
It's a nice hat.
Yeah.
It was a rare commodity these days. He gave one to you.
It was a Richardson.
Oh shit.
I know it. I know. Yeah. So a few months ago, I bought a book, How to Scam People Online. And yeah, it still hasn't showed up. It's weird. Sucks.
Yeah.
Um, Cool.
Hey Andy, can I follow? Can I follow you home? Because my parents always wanted me to follow my dreams.
Fucking yeah, thumbs down.
Oh, come on.
Huge thumbs down.
Well, the best part about that joke is I'm a creeper and I'd follow you home anyway. And I would just sit outside your window.
If that was a real pickup line, I would say nope. No, that's what you brought is that line because you've got to have something better. That's what I would have said. Nice try.
Okay.
That's a nice try.
Try again next week.
Okay. Oh, you know what? Do you have a drink? Oh yeah, you have your lemonade. You want a cheers?
The rest of my lemonade, but I have.
I want a cheers.
To crack into.
I made a cheers on Friday because I survived the week, and I kind of want to do it again right now because
man.
I feel recovered. Cheers, Nitro.
Clink.
Because yeah, wrestling those crates is seriously, it's no joke.
Yeah, I understand.
That was beautiful.
I know, just like you.
Thanks. All right. Oh, we forgot to stretch.
Just like Frank.
That's clever. Yes. And it does all start with the screen. And whether it's new stretches or restretches, Frank and his team do it the best.
Yeah, they do.
To find out more, go to graphicscreenfashion.com, FFFFF,
rank.com,
or
greatfuckingscreens.com.
Hell yeah.
World's best screens, hands down.
And he has an Instagram now, so go follow.
Yep, graphic screen fashion.
Shin.
Shin.
And that just hurt my elbow.
What?
Right here.
Age?
Yeah, basically, because I just
do anything.
No. Cleaning screens is no fun, but Easy Way makes it funner.
Mm-hmm.
Their line of are you going to talk over the whole thing? Because they don't want to. What were you saying? I couldn't hear.
I said funner, and it said it's the funnest. I said they're the best, and I'm whooping in the background.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. Their
line of eco-friendly chemicals will help you keep your screens and your shop clean.
Woo!
Check them out at easyway.com. Easy Way.
It's the easiest way. See? You're so hyped right now.
See.
Senor.
Action Engineering makes all kinds of accessories printers need. Just go to actionengineering.com to have a look and then use Shirt Show at checkout and get a one-time discount of 15% off. And do you know what? Somebody just sent us something a screenshot. Did you see that?
No.
And they said, thank you. And I want to see who.
No, because I got booted off of the Shirt Show Instagram.
Well, we reported you, I don't know how many times. And finally they said, yeah, this guy's,
I was on there and trying to help a buddy out, and I reposted something about his shop getting flagged or blocked, and then it kicked me out.
Mm-hmm. Well, I found out who it was. It is Sublime Screen Printing. He bought some stuff from Action, and he said, sweet, thanks, guys.
Hey, you're welcome.
Got him discount. I think we saved like $50.
Fuck yeah.
Next, we have Monarch Color, and they make ink that does what it's supposed to do. I mean,
hell yeah.
If you want to learn more, you go to monarchcolor.com. Ink better, print better, be better.
Live Moss.
Monarch.
You did it. You made your way through.
Dylan, today we are chatting with Val from Night Owls in Houston, Texas.
Texas.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited.
Me too.
You excited for Atlantic City?
I don't know. Should I be? Because I don't know.
I don't want to say yes because it'll be fun to hang out for sure. Like the people.
Yeah, so there you go. That's
but
a
the
better
actual
question.
like going to Atlantic City and going to the show is kind of like could be good.
Yeah. So I don't know what to expect. And so I've never been to the AC show. And
Long story short, it's gonna fucking rule.
well, okay, then yeah, I'm excited.
Okay, cool.
Super stoked.
Yeah.
I'm ready. Like, I might even leave now.
Hell yeah, let's do it.
Let's get it going. I mean, it's
like
a
3
few
weeks
weeks
early.
right. Well, you ready to
Hang
go?
out. Yeah. Eric's probably going to be there in the background doing cartwheels and shit.
Taping up screens.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think he probably does that pretty much all weekend. You know,
He probably just like writing shit on his chalkboard about us.
about us.
Yeah.
You like bad stuff or good stuff?
Yeah. Bad stuff.
No.
Just all this hate.
I think he probably just writes about a lot of love, actually. He seems like he comes from that kind of energy.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, I love
And there he is.
Crossed out.
Hi.
Hey. I knew he would be there.
I had to make sure the microphone and the camera works.
He couldn't resist.
I'm ready to leave.
You
But,
sneaky son of a bitch.
what's up?
Oh, Sunday, chilling. It's beautiful weather. It's no Texas, but
It's super
there's
hot.
a dog.
Yeah, it's Rudy.
Oh, hey, Rudy.
And then Eric's got our other dog, Rye.
Rudy and Rye.
Rudy and Rye.
What obscenities do you scream at them when they're doing bad stuff?
I mean, little shit comes up.
That's perfect.
You know.
What's on the chalkboard back there?
Eric created this lovely piece of art. It says Daybirds, and then it's crossed out.
Right. I can see that. How does that make you guys feel? Like in reality, how does that make you guys feel that there's a company out there that's the opposite of yours?
I mean, we were first, so.
Right. I mean, it's out of love though, too, because it's a love relationship that created it. But,
For sure.
right.
Are all those sticky notes? Is it like an advent calendar and there's stuff below it? You just peel
There's
off
treats behind each one. No, I honestly don't know what they are.
It was like for process mapping from 3 or 4 years ago.
So obviously none of that shit's getting done.
I think I don't want to say we perfected it by any means, but we have it like pretty dialed. Yeah, I don't know. My dad's like a Six Sigma guy. So it's like that this is part of like Six Sigma process, which is like really fascinating.
Eric, if you're going to talk, get on camera because it's
I'm about to
freaking me out.
I'm literally here to make the audio work.
You're just like the Lord right now. Like you just sound like you're coming from the heavens.
I've been called worse, so.
and he's doing like some Goodwill Hunting shit and doing math equations up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For real, are you good?
I'm
He's the
good.
janitor.
All right. Have a good interview. See you guys later.
Hey, bye, buddy.
Love you, Eric.
Bye.
Hugs and kisses. So, hey, Val, now that loser's gone.
Oh!
The door.
Shit, you should have warned me.
All right, we're good.
Okay, good. Whew. So what's going on?
I'm here at work on a Sunday. I'm in Eric's office because it's the only one that is really set up for this. My office is kind of a mess. It's by production. So,
Yeah. Do you have like a ton of shit in there for production, or is it more just like a white square that you sit in and you don't really sit in there very often?
Well, it's blue, but it is set up for production. So it's like, it's a mess, but it's an artsy mess, I guess.
That's good.
Yeah.
Are you guys working this weekend or are you just in for us?
I'll probably be doing a little bit of work before I head out. So after the podcast, I'll jump downstairs and make sure that the production schedule is set for tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How close is your shop to where you live?
It's about 7 minutes. So it's super close.
That's not bad at all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that mine's the perfect distance so that I don't just like pop in at work randomly during the weekend or at nights or, stuff like that. So generally when I leave and it's 5 o'clock or whatever, 6 o'clock, if I leave, it's very rare I come back. But if it were just a little closer, I know I would. I know it would just, if I get back there, I could check on this or do that. But I don't know.
Well, we definitely make our way here like on Sunday, especially if I know that the production schedule is not ready for the next day. I'll come in, or if like we're jam packed with art, I'll come in and drop in some separations for screens to be made for tomorrow. And, it's part of my life. So I'm just used to it at this point. But I mean, our last warehouse, we were living on the property that our warehouse was on. It was rented. And it, it was kind of set up weirdly where I think it was like an old wood shop. So a guy built furniture in the warehouse, but he lived on the property. So we rented that and we were there for like 7 years, and it made it very difficult to leave work. Like I was pretty much in the office every day.
Yeah, I've always
Is that
wanted...
necessarily a bad thing though?
The whole work-life balance, I've never been able to like master that.
But I feel like it's so one-sided. Like I feel like it's always bashed towards work. Like I feel like it's the people who say work-life balance are the people that like want to feel good about the fact that they like being home.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I definitely feel like looking back, I feel like I could have been better at being like spending time with my family and friends and like kind of nurturing those relationships, but I definitely was like head deep into work. Like it was really hard for me to be pulled out. And even now, sometimes like I'll be working on a Sunday and Eric's like, hey, you got 2 hours. And I'm like 3 hours in. I'm like, I just have one more thing. I have one more thing. Mm-hmm. And that just like, it's hard for me to get out of that mindset.
Dylan, I think that because you always comment on the work-life balance thing, like it's okay to be at work. And I think your perspective is that you still have a young family. Their kids aren't grown yet, in other words. I think when all of a sudden 10 years go by and the kids are like cats in the cradle and then they're graduated and you're like, hey, you want to hang out? And they're like, fuck no, like
no, Dad, sorry, I got work to do.
Yeah. And then you're like, wait, what did wait a second. Like, I wish I would have slowed that down somehow. Or maybe not gone in on Sunday, and spent some time with my kids. But you're coming from the perspective of, they're still young. And I think that for those of us who did miss out on some of those things, I don't know, it feels a little different. That's all.
I'm not necessarily saying like I don't want to be home with my kids, because I do want to be home with my kids, but I also bring them here. Or like I come back to work a lot of time, like back, I don't know, I don't do it as much anymore, but I used to come back all the time because I always had stuff I had to do.
Yeah.
Like there's times when you have to go in and you're like, regardless of what I want to do, I have to go back to work because I have shit I gotta do. I gotta build this website thing, or I gotta do a production thing or whatever. That was like, okay, I went home at like 6 o'clock, had dinner, got the kids to bed. And then when I know they're asleep, I'm like, all right, I'm going back to work from like 10 to 2. And it was like, I still enjoy that though. Like, even if I have to come in at 10 to 2, I fucking crank the tunes in the shop and like I build something or I'm doing something. It's like enjoyable for me. Like my enjoyment isn't like, oh, I went home and fucking read a book. It was like, no, I went to the shop and fucking jammed out and like did some stuff.
Yeah. So. I can definitely relate to that. I mean, there are definitely nights where it's like, before we had very many staff members, we definitely would pull all-nighters. We'd have this giant TV on the opposite side of the press and we'd just watch TV shows while we were printing. It'd be like 2 o'clock in the morning, just trying to crank shit out. I relate to that a lot.
Yeah. And you know what? I love those days because I did the same thing. When you're starting out, and you're trying to survive and trying to make it, I mean, that's what you got to do. And I don't miss those days. At the same time, some of those times where I worked 100 days straight, like no days off for 100 days type of thing, I can't have any of that back. Like, I don't know. Like, I think that I don't regret it, like, because it got me, further along in the process of, how we grew. At the same time, I did make some sacrifices, I guess, and I always say, like, that's not necessarily a sacrifice. It's an investment in this place so that maybe down the road, I can take some more time off. And that's what we've been doing, and so,
I guess,
I think it's tough.
Long story short, do you like the balance now of not being on the property?
I do. I appreciate it because it means that I can actually have a home life, which is still very new to me. Like, even being away from the shop, like going to events like trade shows and stuff like that, or visiting other shops, which I enjoy immensely. It takes quite a bit for me to be able to even leave. So I have to, like, essentially set up jobs and make sure there are backup jobs and stuff like that, like ready for them to print while we're gone. Because without me setting those things up, the shop really, with the production side of the shop, definitely wouldn't work. So a lot of it is still very much reliant on me. So it's definitely a clusterfuck, and like, it's a mess if I'm not prepared to leave. So I can't do any sort of like, just jump on a plane and go somewhere whenever I want to. I wish I could, just not yet.
So I don't know your full role there. I don't know, maybe Dylan, you do, but can you tell us, can you explain what your role is at Night Owls?
Yeah. So I think Danny Grininger used this on his, on when you guys interviewed him, art director. Oh, no, sorry, not art director. It was, not art director, print engineer. That's supposedly my title. I do a lot of like production proofing. I set the schedule. I look over art. I'm like, kind of like, I don't know. It's kind of all over the board.
You're just like the manager of all of that stuff.
Yeah, pretty much for all of production anyways. Like, I don't really have anything to do with fulfillment or our finishing department or promo department. Those are the areas
it's kind of separate anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And anything that has to do with the financial side, I'm out.
Right.
She's like, what does Eric do there? It sounds like you got it all covered.
Well, he's kind of managing like the overview of the entire shop. And then he kind of does all the financial stuff and like catalysts and all that stuff.
So
I'm out.
We got some of the Night Owl story when we talked to Eric, but
right.
Tell us your story. Like, how did you get started and how did you evolve into what you're doing now?
Well, it started, I guess, around 2004, 2005. I did start with Eric in the sense that we learned to screen print together. He was in a band and we were kind of putting on shows and stuff, so punk shows. And he needed t-shirts and merch basically for his band. So we were kind of just like learning how to create that on our own, very DIY. So we got, your typical print kit from, the hobby store, which would have been the, what is it? Speedball. Yeah, Speedball kit.
From like Michael's or something?
Yeah, exactly. That's where it started. And then we would print buttons and make buttons and stuff like that. But it was in his parents' garage, and we upgraded from that little kit to like a single station tabletop press off of eBay, and incrementally grew from there.
And you were making t-shirts with that, or were you making posters?
It was t-shirts. I'm sure posters got through in there a couple years down the road. But yeah, mainly t-shirts, just printing Speedball ink. And then that graduated to Plastisol, which, you never want to be, rinsing out Plastisol screens in the kitchen sink. Eric's mom was very upset about that. But yeah, I mean, we just grew from warehouse to warehouse. Like, we started in a strip mall spot. And then we graduated to like a 3,000 square foot warehouse or something.
But during these transitions, are you mainly focused on the actual production and Eric's focused on the logistics and sales?
Kind of. Eric's always been in the sales department, that's for sure. I'll answer like emails when it comes to art questions and stuff like that. So I'm kind of the art side. I handled, printing out the films and figuring out how things needed to be separated and making the inks and figuring out how things needed to be printed.
Did you have an art background? How did you figure all this stuff out?
I mean, I just fiddled around with Photoshop in the beginning and I was like, well, I know how to work Photoshop. Let me figure this out. And it kind of grew from there. But yeah, he handled mostly like the sales and the physical printing, whereas I was the art side and like making sure things looked like they needed to be, look how the art was, or like even Eric's not very good at loading shirts. So, and I was. So.
Is he very one like heavy handed? To where they're like he pulls the right more or the left more.
Yeah, it was a lot of that. Like instead of the shirt being printed like a straight line, there were a lot of curves and arcs and stuff. So he left the loading and unloading to me, and he did the actual physical printing. At least when we had the manual press. When we graduated to an auto, that was my deal. I took over all that. And he just mainly answered emails and answered the phone and made sure.
That's not necessarily a bad thing at all, because that's like my situation. Like I know that I'm stronger in the seat that I'm in now than I was if I was like, oh, I want to run production all day. Like I could do that job, but that's not like where my strength and like focus is on. Like,
yeah, I mean, it's like you guys, it was the perfect match, like he had his strengths and you had yours. And you found your, roles at the company, and it worked out. So when you got your first auto, did you have any employees yet?
No, we didn't. At that time, it was like in a used, I think an American M&M press that was like, I guess it's similar to the AWT, like Centurion or whatever.
Old.
Yeah, it was really old. And it was constantly breaking down. It was kind of bad. Like at the time, Eric was still like going on tour when he was in a band. And so it was up to me to kind of like pull down the fort. And so it was, making screens, washing out screens, making inks. I was doing everything pretty much when he was out on tour. And so it got to the point where we had too much work that he's like, he had to make a decision. Like, I'm either going to do the band stuff or I'm going to do the print shop stuff. And he chose the print shop. So it was nice for me. But when we did eventually hire our first employee, who actually recently came back to work for us, when we hired him, he was just cleaning screens and like de-taping screens and it's
always like the first hire.
Yeah, exactly. We needed that because we were busy on press. And then I think that lasted maybe about a year, and then he quit. And then I think last year we hired him back. Maybe it was 2 years ago. We hired him back, and he's actually in the fulfillment department now. So he's, it's kind of nice to have that come back around.
Well, let's talk about that real quick. Is this kind of like just a side thing of something that we did was we found out the same thing. Like we would always hire someone for cleaning screens, and we could never keep that position because nobody wants to be doing that job all day long.
Yeah.
Like just cleaning screens and like all that stuff sucks. So we kind of more made the like screen tech position. Like I know we've talked about this a bunch of times, but it's easier to say when you have an auto reclaim because that person feels better about that position because they're not scrubbing screens. But for a couple of years, that's kind of how we did it is like, a quarter of the day he would be dip tank and scrubbing screens and cleaning screens. And he would go from there to like coat the next like 2 or 3 days worth of screens. And then he would, use the CTS and like burn screens for the next couple of days. So it's like, it split that job up into like a full day's worth of just like different things and spreading it out to where it's not all day at a pressure washer. Just like, fuck my life. This sucks. how do you guys feel about that in your shop? Do you try to get somebody in that position that can do multiple things so they don't burn out? Or do you have it more like I have one guy that just, develops and one guy that cleans and so on?
Yeah, it's set up a little bit different here. So the person that cleans the screens is also the person who, okay, so the way that it works is the screens come off the press and we put the squeegee, the flood bar, all the inks together. This person who is de-inking the screens is also the person who is reclaiming. And then we have a separate person who burns the screens and just does the upkeep in the dark room. Right. So they're two separate ones. It makes it so that it's a little bit more structured. And we don't have issues where it's like, well, we don't have enough screens cleaned. We now need to switch you over and you need to, before you coat these, you've got to clean some more. And that was getting to be a headache. So we have it as two different positions. But it's nice because the person who is de-inking and cleaning the screens is actually someone who also goes around the press and makes sure that the ink supply on press is good.
Right. So they've got multiple roles there.
Yeah. It's not one single thing, it's multiple things. So yeah.
Well, I think that's ideal. You're right, because it's not as monotonous as just cleaning screens. However, if you were a shop like us, as we grew, we needed somebody that could clean screens 8 hours straight, like all day to clean enough screens. So I think there comes a point where if you don't have auto reclaim, that is, if you're just manually with a power washer cleaning screens, there comes a point where
we just have a fuckload of screens.
Yeah, you have too many to clean, and so they can't do anything else. Like they have to get here in the morning and clean screens all day until they leave. And so I think even then, and that's what was sort of our problem, is that he wasn't even cleaning enough, and so we were going to hire an additional person and get another booth so that we're cleaning. There's two people cleaning screens all day, and you have to make a decision. You have to say, wait a second, this is nuts. We have to. I mean, this is probably the perfect time to buy an auto reclaim, which was an overbuy because we can clean so many more times than what we really needed at that moment. But it allowed us to do exactly what you're describing, because it's actually the best way to do it. And that is to have somebody that their job is to not only reclaim, which, even with their auto reclaim can be monotonous and not the greatest of jobs, but also, like you said, they can walk over, scrape screens, they can clean squeegees, flood bars, and assist with helping people on press, keep their inks filled and things like that. Because then that's like a job that I think you can retain somebody for years and years. They're not going to say, right, look, this is bogus, I'm out of here. The other
part of it too is it's like my way of having the one guy do the whole process is like he knows that if he fucks up in the reclaim, it's just going to screw him when it goes to like exposing a screen or whatever, because he's like, oh, I didn't clean this very well. The emulsion didn't adhere well, or I had pinholes because I left ink in or something in the screen. Like he's going to do a better job cleaning the screen because he knows it's going to make the rest of his life easier for everything else. I mean, yeah, we all know that person should clean the screen to perfection every time, but that's not always the case. But if you have a guy who's like, fuck, this is going to screw me if I don't get it done right the first time, then it just helps it go. So like in your case, you, pun intended, have to make sure those two people mesh.
Yeah.
And like one, make sure he does a really good job so that the other guy can do his job.
For sure. There's definitely got to be a lot of communication in that department too. It's like if there are any issues with the screens, we've got to figure out what is the cause of that and like get that dialed in. Right. I think for the most part, we've got that dialed in, but if things come up every once in a while and it's like, okay, well, where did we fail? Let's figure that out.
I do really like the idea of, like you said, the person that is cleaning squeegees and flood bars and cleaning screens is also the one who's just like in that bubble that's like adding inks and checking inks on press, because then they kind of have a role all day.
Yeah. And sometimes, I mean, when people are out sick, he can jump on press and pull shirts off press. Like, right. It's kind of a great position.
Right.
Before we get off of this position, I have a question for you. Have you heard of, I think I'm getting this right, Crystal Clean?
Yes. So
do you have it?
Yeah. So we recently got, I guess it's the setup where it's you kind of take your squeegees and flip bars and you put them inside this bin, you cover it, and it kind of like cleans it for you automatically. We just recently put that in. I don't know what the system is called. That's Eric's side.
The one that's basically like a dish, just like a squeegee and flip bar dishwasher.
Yeah, pretty much.
Kind of, but the way I understand it is you, hold on, do I get this right? So if you, the machine is free. So in other words, I think it's crystal clean. They give you this machine. It's like a stainless steel dishwasher, sort of like what Dylan said. They give you the piece of equipment as long as you buy the chemical from them.
Yep.
And
but it's got to be a lot easier for them because it's water-based. Like this shit just comes off of water.
Yeah. Okay. So, but they're water-based and plastisol, right? You do some plastisol.
No.
Oh, really?
All water-based.
So I wonder, how it does, like, how does it work with plastisol?
It works wonderfully. I mean, there are definitely some squeegees that are maybe a little bit more caked on, like maybe the whites were on press for a long run and it didn't get clean on the first go. You literally just set it back up to run again and it's clean by the second time. But yeah, we don't really have any issues. It's kind of
how long is it in there?
I think it's like 10 minutes. I could be wrong. I don't know the exact time on that.
That's not bad though. I
want to say it's like 5 to 10 minutes, but it's literally he'll throw them in, go clean the screen in the washout booth, and then he comes back.
It's always got to be part of the flow. It's not like someone just stands there and it's like, 10 minutes. Like they're putting it in the machine so they can do something else.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right. I don't know where we were when I went off on this tangent, but we were talking about you guys were in your second place or first place or something. Oh, you were talking about your first auto that was old.
Oh yeah. So I do have a good story about that press. I liked that press a lot, despite all of the breakdown issues that we had. We constantly had techs in trying to fix it, but it was just so old that we had to get rid of it. But one of the last jobs that we ran was for this festival in Florida, in Gainesville, called The Fest.
Yeah.
And we were printing, I think it was tote bags for it. And it was a big run. And the press was sold that sometimes when you hit the stop button, it didn't actually compress and it didn't actually stop. And I made the mistake of stepping between the pallet and the first head. Luckily, there was not a screen in that first head. But on this press, the head has an arm that comes over the top of the pallet. And I kind of got swept up underneath it. And I literally was holding on to the head of the press while the press was still moving. And I was literally just laying on top of the pallet as the press was moving. Luckily, Eric saw me get swept up and hit the emergency stop button. But had there been a screen in that first head, I don't know what would have happened. That would have been a very, very different story. But yeah, I held on.
It's so scary, right? I'd say it is a fear.
So
it's a fear of mine still all the time.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm always like, okay, please make sure that it's stopped.
I can't remember who it was, but I saw on Instagram the other day, someone got their hand stuck and it said he had showed like scrapes on the top of his wrist. And he said he like dislocated his thumb and like all this other stuff. I'm like, yeah, I want to know, like, if anyone has a story that's crazy, like they got like really hurt, like let us know. Cause I want to hear about it. Like, I know there's some gnarly ones out there. I've heard from people, like people getting gutted, but like,
I kind of don't want to hear those stories because they're too scary for me.
The thing is, it's no joke. Like,
yeah,
I tell the guys out there, I'm like, no matter what you're doing, even if it's the dumbest thing, like you drop something on the floor or whatever, like cut the safety cable.
Absolutely.
Like, don't just be like, oh, I can beat, like it's a 6-second dwell. I can duck real quick. It's like, dude, it's not fucking worth it. Just like hit the cable, start again. Like it's not a big deal.
Well, I'm glad Eric hit that button. He's a hero.
I'm glad he was around. That was actually, we were running that job with one of our first hires, and he definitely didn't know what to do. And so it's like one of the first things we teach anyone that has anything to do with the presses, it's the emergency stop button, and then making sure that, because we run rocks. So we've got the safety bars. You've got to make sure to hit the safety bar anytime you go in between the press, or if you're ducking down, anything like that around the press, you've got to be using those safety bars. It's so crucial. So that is definitely like one of the first things that we teach people when they come into the shop. It's like, we don't play around. We don't want any injuries happening.
Especially the oval.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's actually, I find it more on the eco that we have. It's a little bit more dangerous because even me, like sometimes I'll be walking on the production floor and I'm like, oh, this screen needs ink. I'll jump in there and without thinking, like I don't use the safety bar, but that's on me. If something happens, it's like, I should be, practicing what I preach.
Yeah. I don't know. I just feel sketched out about it. Like, even if I know the safety bars are like, or the safety cord is like cut, it's still weird. Like when we put like pallet tape on or whatever, and they want to get in the back and like tape the back of the pallet tape or something. It's like, ugh. It just kind of like gives me that feeling of like, hurry up, get the fuck out of there.
Yeah.
Like don't spend any extra time in there.
Dylan, do you have the safety fence up? The M&R safety fence, the yellow bars?
This conversation, the answer to this question.
I want to say that I couldn't remember. Somebody said no. Were you the no?
I got rid of them first thing.
Yeah. I don't think we have the safety, like the
ones at your knees.
Yeah.
The load in. Yeah. Get that shit out of here.
No. Install it and make sure you never uninstall it. And here's the reason why I think you don't like it is because you put it too far out. You put it in, it's not like right where your knees can hit it all the time. It's just a few inches in and you don't touch it.
That's what she said.
And that way you don't walk in there. Like, in fact, Val wouldn't have done it. She wouldn't even been able to walk in there.
She would have fucking went a leg over it.
You're
and
right.
got in there.
I would have straddled it.
Exactly. You say that, but there's no way that fucking thing is helping anybody. It's just in the way.
But it's funny too, because like I kept that shirt that I was wearing the day that we were printing, because like the imprint of the tote bag was on the back of my shirt. It was proof. It was like, okay, don't ever do that again.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't like them. We used to have one on the Sportsman when we first got it, and like, yeah, it was there. It was whatever. And then every press we got after that, we're like, not. Like, I don't want it in here. And I know the tech, like when they come set up, they have to like sign off on it, and you see them like drill the holes in the concrete and put the taps in and everything. It's like literally the day after they leave, I take them out and fucking grind them off.
It's funny because when we were running the Sportsman, we did have that installed, but it was to the point where like our press op and assistant kept hitting their knees on it so that it had literally come apart from the cement. It was loose and would just
that was a bad installation.
Yeah.
And so
we had that too, where it was like it was to the concrete, but there's like an Allen key in the bottom that like holds them in tight. They would come loose all the time because they would rest on them.
Yeah.
Like the presses, like I say, it was 2 spins or whatever. They would do the same thing. They would push their knee against it, or they would push against it, or whatever. And it would just come loose. Or we've had it where on the gauntlet, where when they first put that on, we left it on, I think, for like a week, and like hoodie arms or like long sleeves would get caught on it or whatever. Yeah. And it was just like, get this shit out of here. I know we're practicing. We're saying bad stuff right now. We're saying, we're saying go do meth and smoke cigarettes.
You're saying bad stuff. So here's what I'm saying. Everybody, don't listen to Dylan. Listen to me. Make sure you install that safety fence. Because
I'm a safety third kind of guy.
Let me finish. Because if it's not a press operator or a press assistant, or if maybe it's somebody else, maybe somebody comes walking up and they just step in the way, install the safety fence and you will not regret it. Don't listen to Dylan.
I think
or you will. Hey, party hard.
Live on the edge. Yeah. So where were we? So you have an auto, and you told the story about the auto.
Yes.
But you knew it was time. When that happened, you're like, I'm getting rid of this thing.
Yeah. So we got rid of it shortly after. I think shortly after is when we got a G3 and a Sportsman. And that was, they were brand new. And so it was like night and day, having to wrestle with registration and things breaking down. I want to say, like, as soon as we got a new press, it was like, oh, this is what it's like. I still definitely struggled with, sim process jobs and registration on that. I feel like we definitely did not have it dialed, but at the same time, we weren't as good of printers at that time. I think once we switched over to water-based, which, was we decided we wanted to get rid of all plastisol and completely convert to water-based. That was the shining moment where we're like, oh, okay, this is how you print. It like showed us all our flaws, everything that we needed, everything that we were doing bad.
Can you elaborate on that? Like what
Sure.
were you seeing that made you feel that way?
I feel like we were just accepting like, this is good enough,
Like the leeway you had with plastisol versus like not being able to get away with that with water-based?
Absolutely. Like you really couldn't get away with it once we switched over to water-based. I want to say we had attended the virus certified, the water-based mastery class at MNR. I think that was in 2018. We went to that, and that was kind of when things dawned on us. We were like, okay, we need to really delve into this and learn our craft and like, okay, learn how to make screens, learn how to print this the right way. Once we left that class, we messed up, basically. We learned how to do everything wrong. So instead of learning how to print white water-based or black water-based, we went all in and we're like, okay, let's do some process. Let's just set this up and see how it goes. That's how we learn. We do.
But that's the best way to learn, though.
It is, but it's also like not smart. So, Eric and I have this joke that we do things harder, not smarter.
Yeah.
We've learned in the past couple of years to kind of learn a little bit more about what we're trying to do before diving headfirst into it, but we still do. We still dive headfirst.
I have two questions. One, because I don't know very much about water-based. Is it you're saying, or I guess you're suggesting that the way to learn about water-based is to first master white ink and black ink?
Yep.
Okay.
Go slow, master that, learn how to print it. I mean, before we switched, we were still pretty good at like discharge and like low solids, water-based. But we weren't great at making screens. Like we would still have breakdowns and things like that. So once we converted, we really learned how to print and how to make screens. And that's, I feel like we learned immensely after that. So the past, 4 or 5 years have been nothing but water-based and us trying to like become better printers.
Yeah, it's funny. Lon, I think it was from last episode, a couple episodes
2
ago,
episodes
maybe.
ago.
Yeah, he was sort of said the same thing. Like, the best printers make the best screens. I mean, because it does. It all starts there, and that takes as easy as it sounds. Because when I first started, for me anyway, the easiest thing was making a screen, but I wasn't making a good screen.
Yeah.
So I think it comes down. That's really what it is. So what made you? So you're this plastisol shop. What were the factors that influenced your decision to say I want to be water-based? Why make the change?
I think a lot of it was we wanted to be a little bit more sustainable and we wanted to kind of set ourselves apart from everybody. We wanted to do something that was a little bit different. And I don't know, we kept hearing about all these shops, and you see these YouTube videos of like shops in other countries and how they're all running water-based. And a lot of it is tabletop printing, but you're just like, how are they doing this? This is insane. And then there's the shops that run all the Nike stuff. And you're just like, yeah, they're all running like HSA and stuff like that. We wanted to do that. We wanted to mimic that and recreate that in our own shop. We just felt like if we could do that, we could set ourselves apart. And that was our goal.
Well, it's also like in your niche though, too, because like a lot of those punk bands that you guys print for, they all want that. Like they are the ones to request it, I feel like.
Yeah. I mean, they're heavily discharged shirts or low solids. Like they were all about that. And that's kind of, I mean, we like the feel of it. They're softer.
Yeah.
They feel better. That's what we wanted to put out. That was the goal for our shop, is just like, okay, well, how can we make things better?
How do you guys feel now that you've kind of do it more? Are you feeling like it's a big leg up for your business that you guys are that kind of like water-based shop to go to?
I'd
Or
say
do you feel like,
I mean, I'm pretty proud that we can say we're an all water-based shop. I mean, there aren't that many in the States that I know of.
are you getting customers that don't want it? That are just like, oh, you guys only do this, and then they go somewhere else?
I think we only get those from like from the contract side, which we don't do very many contract jobs to begin with. But like some people will request, hey, this needs to be Plastisol only. And you know what? It's fine if we don't print for them. I'd rather print for the people that do want it or do request it. I mean, at this point in time, the customers that we do have, that's what they're looking for anyways. They're looking for water-based, or they're looking for like just a quality print. I think now too, it's like we don't even really do that many band stuff. It just doesn't right now. I mean, with COVID and everything, there aren't shows happening, but we've kind of dropped off that, and just our normal customers, which are just like artists and, you know, small businesses. They're like, oh, well, this is like a quality print. It's water-based too. Cool.
I mean, that makes sense. It's smart. You go all in on what you're good at and what you like doing. I mean, that's good. That's a good decision. How long? So what was the transition like? How long did it take to go from Plastisol to water-based? Did you do it like cold turkey, like just the next day? Or like, we're not doing Plastisol anymore? And
it kind of was that way. Yeah. We were just like, all right, let's pack up all the Plastisol, put it on a pallet. Let's get it out of here.
What I want to know though is like, I make decisions like that sometimes with like the shop. I'm like, okay, this is what we're going to do now. And then my staff is like, what the fuck? Like, you know what I mean? Like I have it hard enough, like just trying to get these jobs done. Yeah. And now you're throwing like a massive wrench in the works. I feel like if you were a Plastisol shop and and I went out and told my staff, I'm like, hey, shit's about to get hard.
Yes. 100%. That's what happened. So we were actually between shops when we decided to do this. So the last shop that we were in was the one where we were living on the same property as the warehouse. We had switched from M&R to rock presses. So when we got into this new warehouse, we were already set up with rock, and we were like, okay, we're all in on water-based. Let's figure this out. It definitely was a headache for a lot of our staff. Because we were constantly changing things, because we were learning on pretty much daily, like how do we needed to print things and how things need to be done properly. And even still, like, we're still learning. There's not, you know, a wrong or right. I mean, I guess there is a wrong or right way to print, but there's so many different ways that you can do it. So it took our staff quite a bit there. And it was a lot of me being on the production floor, managing like, okay, this is what we need to do. And then the next day was like, oh, no, actually what I said yesterday is wrong. This is what we need to do. It was a lot of that, just full on me being on production.
Did they understand that though? Like, were they on board with the fact that, you know, hey guys, here's what we're going to do. Right. You know, here's our goal anyway. We're going to switch to this more sustainable print style. And yeah, it's going to suck, and there's going to be some pains as we go through it. Mm-hmm. But once we get there, then it's going to be like really rad. And so did you have people that objected to that and say like actually quit, or were most people on board?
I think they were on board for the idea. Once it came down to actually doing it, I think it was a little bit more of a headache, and it was kind of hard to unlearn all the things that they had already learned. So that was kind of difficult. So a lot of the press operators that were working with us at the time no longer work here. We retain one press operator, and he's kind of been through it all. He went through the ringer when it came to the switchover, but he stuck it out, and now he's an amazing printer, and he can say that, you know. So I think for him in particular, he would say that it was worth it, and that, it was worth all that headache. And he was definitely on board versus the other people that were just like, fuck this.
Right. Well, I think a big plus of it is that you're with them
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you're out there, you're with them. My thing is like, I'm in here on the computer, like doing stuff in my office. And I'm like, oh, I have a great idea. And I go out and I tell them and I turn around and I walk back into the shop, like into the office.
Yeah, that's really difficult. I mean,
I'm out there and I'll help, like, we'll figure a bunch of shit out. And like, I'm involved a lot. I'm just saying that, like, if I wasn't out there all day, every day, and we were learning something new, then they'd be like, yeah, fuck this. Like, this is awful.
I mean, we also had people come in to help us, like, walk us through things. We had Richard Greaves come out and help us try to figure out things. And, there are other people as well. But it really came down to us, like, learning about how to make a screen properly. That was kind of the big turn on.
What did you end up doing differently from what you were doing before?
Learning how to control tension and stuff, or not even control tension, but like just managing it, making sure that, like, especially for running some process. I mean, you guys talked to Lon on the last two episodes or whatever, where he was like, well, you want the screens that you're using for this particular job, they need to be in the same
range of newtons.
Yeah, exactly. And then that's so true. And we didn't know that at the time. We're just kind of using whatever we had around. So now we're controlling that a lot better, and we're managing it, and we're able to, like, create screens per job, and they're actually, like, dialed in. Like, we also have so our art director Kyle, he helped us create a curve, and we've gone from, like, the M&R iMage to what was it that we did, the wax.
Do you have the dowel hit or the spider?
The spider. We had the spider for a little bit, and now we have Kilo. So, every step of the way between each of those machines, Kyle has helped us create a curve specifically for us. So having him help create that was, like, kind of crucial on our screen making side as well.
Right. And you guys went from statics to Newman's, now back to statics?
Yeah. That's kind of Eric's deal, but I fully support it. When we had...
I loved your tone right now. You were like, I don't love it, but I support him.
It's, honestly, in this business, it's always Eric making these changes, and he always has the big idea to, like, let's do this, let's do that. And I'm always questioning it and, like, fighting him on it. But in the end, it's like he wants what's best for this company. And I come around eventually, like, oh yeah, he was right. We totally should have done this way before. Right. But I'm the one essentially who has to make it work. So he comes up with the idea, and then it's like, okay.
So that's my exact argument for me saying I, as the owner, going out there, and then you're saying the same thing with Eric. Like, Eric comes out and he's like, hey, we're not going to use Newman's anymore. We're going to use statics again. You're just like,
why?
Bashing your head against the wall. Right. Exactly.
No, but I knew going in, at least with this changeover, because, like, we didn't have enough Newman frames, because we were struggling with having enough screens. We were gaining things, and it was just becoming hard to manage. So we got rid of them, bought all these static frames, and now we have enough, and we don't have to deal with, like, gaining screens. I don't have to worry about, like, taping things. Like, if we need to do an ink change, I want another screen made. We're not doing that anymore. Yeah.
Now that when you guys had the Newmans, it was a lot easier probably to keep track of your tension, because you could throw it back on the table and tweak it. What are you guys doing now? Do you have, like, a schedule of this is when we check the Newtons, or?
Well, we're supposed to. I actually have to check in with my my team and make sure that that's actually still being utilized. But
that's most people's answer.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing is, like, we can sit here as, like, hoity-toity printers all day and be like, we check our Newtons every other Thursday, and, like, it's like, fuck, no, you don't. Like, don't bullshit. Like, I'm super guilty of that too. Like, it's like we don't do it enough at all. It's like we're going good, everything's fine, we got a flow, whatever. It's like, I'm not busting anybody's balls. If we start having a ton of screen issues, then let's look into it. But, like, I'm not on a regular schedule at all. Yeah. And I feel like we're all guilty of that because we all get in the rhythm.
I thought we sort of talked about this on an episode, is in that if you actually did have somebody dedicated to checking newtons, just for example, and writing that down and keeping that track of that data, that, yeah, sure, that costs money, right? Whatever you're paying them to do that. But
Right.
what's your ROI? Like, are you going to get that money back on press with registration and everything like that? Like, is it money well spent, in other words, or is it just like,
I feel like it depends on what kind of work you're doing. Like if you're like Val's saying, if you're doing sim process jobs all day long, it's a key, because then you'll be fighting jobs on press where you're like, this won't stay in registration, or this has got too much dot gain here or whatever. And it's because you're like, screens are too loose and you're like getting all these issues.
Yeah. So even at like $20 an hour, or I don't even know if you would need that, just somebody that could just measure tension basically and record it. And what is that? 20 times 8 hours. It's 160 a day. Would you pay 160
nobody would be
a
doing
day?
that shit all day long.
Well, I mean, I do kind of control it in that sense that, like, okay, say we have a sim process job. I'm the one that's still managing the production schedule. So if I know that we're going to get a 12 color job on press, and we need to make sure that those the screen tension on that screen set needs to be all within the same, like really close. I make sure to tell that to my screen department. So I'll notate like, hey, make sure that these screens specifically have similar tension. So, I can call that out, and I try to manage that as much as possible. But if we have like a 4-color job, I'm not going to be as worried about it.
Well, that's what I mean. Like if you were calling it out when it's absolutely necessary, it's not like every other day we're recording this, or every time we reclaim, because that's what, like, that's the textbook like explanation is like, okay, when you're done reclaiming, check the newtons, mark it on the calendar, and like, oh, we bought this screen at this time and now it's at here, it's at here, it's at here. This is the life of this screen. It's like, dude, nobody's doing that shit. And if they are, cool. Like, I don't think it's for everybody. I think our thought process is, like you said, like if it comes down to where we're having a big job and we're going to have issues, we could do that. But it's also like, I feel like we recycle screens often enough where we're really not running into that problem. It's not like I'm buying 400 screens and I'm using them for 5 years. Right. And then I get 500 more screens. It's like, we'll use screens and then something happens because they're, hydros or whatever, where thin thread, where they break, and then I'll have a whole pallet. I'll get new ones, come back, they're recycled in, old ones out, new ones in, old ones out, new ones in. Yeah. So I don't know. It's just one of those things. Like, I agree that it should be done. It's just.
And it also comes down to communication too. Because like if we're having trouble with registration and it's like one screen might be way off, it's like, okay, we'll take that screen down, we'll reclaim it, we'll have them check that. Yeah, we'll have it reburn, and then we'll check that screen and just make sure that they know to check it.
Mm-hmm. So you guys are fully back to statics again.
We are. Yeah, I think
single tear just came down your cheek.
Yeah, I think we still use some Newmans, but it's mostly for like weird one-off jobs, or like I think we still use them for bandanas because we don't have static frames that are that big.
Right.
So those are the lone Newman frames that we still have. They're for bandanas.
Let's be clear though, they're Franks, so they're fantastic stuff.
Well, that's why, they needed the best. They heard the best was out there and they fucking had to do it. Hands down. Well, you were saying bandanas. Do you guys have bandana pallets?
We do. We do have oversized pallets for bandanas. We run it on the Eco, not on the Oval, because that would be way too many to switch out. But
are you running like every other pallet as those pallets because of the weight?
Yep. Every other. And I think we got them from Action. So yeah.
I'm thinking about doing the same. I think I'm going to buy a set. We're getting a couple customers that are asking us for bandanas, and luckily the prints they want to do aren't like a full bandana. It's like kind of more toward the middle, or it's like for example, these ones that we're doing right now are just teeth. Okay. So it's like the bottom half of a bandana, if it's folded, like when the person wears it, it's got teeth on it. It's for this like new comic that I guess it's like a massive deal. It's like a big deal comic, and it's got like the girl in the comic has a bandana with like these like fangs or whatever. So, and they want to order a lot of them. So I'm kind of like, fuck, maybe I'll just like take the money from the job and buy these pallets so that we'll always have them.
Yeah. I mean, that's essentially what we did. We got a big bandana order and it was like, all right, well, let's just invest in these pallets because we're going to end up using them down the road.
And you're using what, like 22 squeegees and plug bars?
I think it's, yeah, it is 22.
22s?
Yeah. Cause like our max on the bandanas that we do is a 20 by 20 print.
Yeah.
So
I think bandanas are actually like 22 by 22, right?
They are. Yeah. So I make sure to tell our customers the max what we can do is 20 by 20.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. Back to the story. We keep tangenting. You guys decided to get into water-based. What happened next?
Yeah, so we switched over to rock presses, got into this new warehouse, kind of set it up. We were able to set up the dark room and washout room exactly how we wanted it. Granted, there are some things that we would have liked to change now that we're in it and working in it, but for the most part, it was set up and built out brand new. Like those rooms didn't exist, so we laid it out how we thought the flow needed to work. And I would say it's pretty beneficial. Like if you're able to do that, to just kind of walk into a brand new setup. If you're going to switch over, that's ideal. But also like one of the key things was like creating our ink formulas. I was heavily into that changeover as well. So not only was I stuck on the production floor, I was also stuck in the ink room. At the time, I had two ink techs in there, and in the changeover, they were literally just working on converting our formulas. So whatever jobs we were running consistently with Plastisol, I was having them convert those formulas to water-based, and that took quite a while. In addition to like just keeping up with all our jobs.
Have you guys tried a bunch of different water-based manufacturers, or is there one you've kind of been with?
I mean, mainly we're using Matsui, but we kind of we run the gamut when it comes to the water-based inks. Like we've, pretty much everybody. But like even when we went to the virus class, we had already tested that ink like maybe 2 years prior, and it's good ink. It's just really, at the time, we didn't know what we were doing. We didn't have it dialed. So it was very, very difficult. And I guess, when you're approaching water-based, that's really what you have to learn is like, okay, let's learn every part of this before we dive in. I wish we had done that before we decided we were going to change over. But you learn in your failures, right?
And you guys are doing high solids now?
We do. We do high solids. We still do low solids, water-based. We still do discharge. We do all of it.
Mm-hmm. How are you guys storing? Are you storing any ink? Like, are you making over it and then capping it and keeping it on the shelf? Or are you trying to just like calculate exactly what you need for each job and kind of go that route?
Well, when it comes to discharge, we kind of have to.
Well, with discharge, but just like straight water-based. Are you keeping it? Or are you...
absolutely. Where we are, but it's all the formulas that we create. We have that. It's a database online as well as on the container itself. So should something go bad, like it's been sitting on the shelf for a couple of years, we can always just remake it. It's not a big deal. But we are storing inks. Yeah,
I don't store any water-based when we do that job. I'm more because we don't do a ton of it. We do a decent amount. We're not at all saying we're a water-based printer, but we do enough of it where when we have a job, I'm more just trying to calculate how much I need for that job because I don't really have shelf space for it because all my shelf space is Plastisol stuff. But what is the shelf life on something like that? If you're capping it good, is it?
It should be pretty good. I want to say just like a couple years. So I want to say we're reusing pretty much everything immediately.
Pretty frequently.
Yeah, exactly. We're using these often, but there are some formulas that we've had for 10 years. And it's like, okay, well, that ink, when you open it up, that container is now just like dust.
Right.
All the water has evaporated. So, that happens, but at the same time, we still have the formulas. So it's not a huge concern to me if something goes bad. It doesn't happen often, but we do run across that stuff. We try to maintain like the how long we have each ink. We shouldn't be having like 5-gallon pails just sitting. That isn't something that we are concerned with because we use it too often.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm curious. How does it compare to Plastisol? So if I have a gallon of Plastisol versus a gallon of water base, does that yield the same amount of shirts, or do you use way more water base or way less water base? Do you have any idea?
I think it depends on how you're using it. So like low solids, you're going to use a lower mesh, probably than if you were using Plastisol. But I guess it just depends on if you're like printing on a base or a double base. If you're building your bases, then all the highlight colors that are coming on top, you're using just a little bit of ink. You're not using a ton. So we've kind of got it dialed now where we have like this little calculator where I have an estimation now of how much ink I'm going to need per job, based on how big the design is and how many shirts we're running. But back in the day, it was a game of like, I think we're going to need, this many ounces. So let's make this. And if we need to make more, we'll just make more in the job. That was definitely problematic. But now I think I have it dialed in. I think it's pretty comparable, but I would say that now I have it a little bit more controlled. And I want to say we're using less than we did when we were printing Plastisol.
One thing I've heard from different water-based printers, like strictly water-based printers, is it seems to be they're doing a lot more print flash printing of whites to get like a really good white. Now, are you guys doing that where you're not just doing like a 2-pass flash, 2-pass white? You might do it like 3 times or another like 3 screens?
Yeah, we definitely build our bases. So like sometimes a job will call for 2 bases, 2 white bases. Some jobs will call for 3 if we're using a blocker underneath it. It just depends on what we're printing and the job itself. But we're making sure to build our art steps based on, the garment that we're using. That kind of like
my only question with that is it curing wise? Like, are you having to change things dryer wise if you're like, okay, we're going to do 3 bases on this?
Not really. If we're running HSA in that instance, like say we're using 3 bases, it's going to be an HSA job. The only time we're changing dryer settings is if we're going from discharge to HSA, and we try to like schedule our job so it's like we're not constantly changing the dryer settings. So I'm going to group my HSA jobs.
So what's your dryer setting change between the 2 roughly?
I want to say, I don't know it exactly because I know it's definitely changed since I've been out on the production floor.
Right.
But
so say if you're doing a discharge job versus doing a regular HSA job, are you running it through for discharge? Are you running it through for like 2 minutes, 30 seconds?
Yeah, definitely.
And then for HSA, you're running it through for...
It's actually more the temperature that changes versus the time that it's in the dryer.
Okay.
So yeah, like
so you're changing the temp and time.
Sometimes. Mostly it's the temperature. I'm not really changing the time that it's in the dryer because it should still be around 2.5 minutes.
Okay. So you're changing the temp.
Yeah.
See, that's one thing like we never really do with the stuff that we're using is more just the time it's in the dryer.
I see.
So like if we do Plastisol job and then we go to do a discharge job, it's just the difference is like 50 seconds for a Plastisol job or like 2:45 for a discharge job.
I see. And I guess it also depends on if you've got 100% poly garment. You definitely don't want that.
Right. Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, for example, like if we're doing poly, the thing's in there for like whatever, like 25 seconds or 20 seconds or whatever, so that it gets to temp, I don't know. I was just curious because there's a lot more factors. It seems like for even water-based, it's not all just like one setting and everything else. You guys are doing a ton of different things.
Yeah, it's definitely, they have to pay attention, but we also put notes in our production schedule of like, okay, now we're changing from HSA to discharge. Make sure you're changing your dryer settings and your flash settings sometimes too. So, I mean, if you're running t-shirt job versus a hoodie job, you definitely don't want your flashes the same.
Now, is your art department calling all that stuff out beforehand? Like it's on a work order, like change your flash to this, change the dryer to this? Or is that more just, that job, you have to go do that?
It's more, yes, I'm the person who's actually calling all that stuff out. But it is more of like, So we now have a production manager who's out on the floor, who kind of took my place. So I'm not out there as much, so that I have time to schedule things properly. But for instance, if I say, hey, you're going to run a bunch of HSA jobs next, make sure your dryer settings and your flash settings are set to this. He knows to watch out for that and to give everybody a heads up. But our team pretty much knows at this point, like, if you see that, you need to pay attention to these things. Because it was definitely a problem when we were like working water base into our shop, of like, okay, well, there's just this huge confusion of like, what do our settings need to be? Like, I don't understand what the difference is. Why do we have to make it hotter? Why do we have to make it cooler? Like, it was relearning all of that. And so at one point, we definitely had like a little note on the side of the dryer of like, okay, all discharge jobs are this, and all HSA jobs are this. Plastisol is this. If you have a discharge underbase in Plastisol, this is what you have. You know,
that's kind of what we have now. We just use the recipes on the sprint.
Yeah, exactly.
So I just go through. The funny thing is I totally forgot. Like when we first got the sprint, like we have, I think like the first page is all like our standards of like, okay, you know, we're doing a poly job, we're doing a plastisol on both. And it's like with the recipes, it's like, okay, this press is poly, this press is just regular cotton tees or whatever, and it's that, and then it's the inverse, and so on, so that like those presses can pick that recipe for the dryer belt speeds. And on the second page, there's one called apple crisp, because we ran an apple crisp through it one day, and we made a recipe on the fucking dryer so where we could run it through at the proper temp. So it goes like plastisol, water based, this, and then apple crisp.
But not pizza.
No pizza. No, we haven't done a pizza. We just did an apple crisp. So I thought that was funny.
Well, I have a story.
Cool.
Want me to tell
story, bro?
Want me to tell a story?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So last week we have an order for 160 tie-dyes. Just pretty simple. One color front, one color back, white ink. We run them and 11 smalls have a hole in them. All right. And it's for an event. It's for an event that's on, they're picking up for Friday. Actually, we were dropping off on Friday, and so they had to have them. And so we do a fix, right? And so we're like, okay, we need 11 more smalls, which is we just emailed our contact at SNS, and
all 11 had holes in them?
Yeah, kind of the same spot. So a weird something happened.
So
right?
some guy at the warehouse had a dagger and he just fucking stabbed through 11 smalls.
That's exactly what happened. But they have it on camera. We have the footage. No, so we put in a fix for it, just like we normally do, and email SNS. And the next day, 11 shirts show up, and there's holes in them again. Not all 11. I can't remember how many. I think it was like, I think 2 of them had holes, and then 9 of them were good. But we had set it up and found out at the end of the dryer.
Oh, wow.
Again. And so we're like, oh shit, this sucks. And so we had one more day to fix this. And I was like, Brooke, just this time call and say, send us 2 smalls without holes. Like somehow before you send the shirts, I don't know if you can
tell Terrence to check his anger issues and quit ripping these fucking shirts.
Somebody's got a moth problem.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so we want, just make sure, because we don't want there to be smalls with holes in them. So show up Friday, 1 had a hole, 1 didn't.
Wow.
And but we checked before, because I like, Brooke, when these come in, like, we're not going to set this up. We're just going to look at it, right? We're going to make sure that they're good. But one of them still
so
had a hole.
What happened?
And so we printed it and we shorted him a shirt. But
I know, but what the fuck? Like, what did you call the distro? And you're like, dude, seriously?
Not yet. But I'm thinking, my question was this. And so, because it got me thinking again, like, how much does that cost our company, or any screen printer out there? How much money do holes in shirts cost? Because for some jobs, sure, you have a hole in a shirt and you just take it off the invoice. They didn't, they ordered 100 even shirts. They don't really, it's okay if they get 99. But I've always told the story when anybody comes and asks me, whenever a customer service rep or quality control comes and says, Andy, can we take this off the invoice? It's like, it's a 6-color job. We don't want to set this back up. I always use the analogy of like, so let's say you went and ordered 6 pizzas at a restaurant, and then you show up to pick them up and they're like, hey, sorry, bro, we dropped 1. Here's 5. Are you going to be upset? You're going to say like, look, I ordered 6. I don't get it. What do you mean 5? And so we've always fixed it in the past. We don't call them. We make it look easy. We're like, here, even if we have to set up the 6 colors, here are your 100 shirts that you wanted. And so, but that costs money. And so I thought of, when we talked about tracking mistakes or tracking fixes, like you have this postcard, you should show Val this card.
Pretty good.
So
It's in verse for you. And then on the back, they have to write what the fuck happened.
That's
So,
pretty good.
That's for like a misprint, I guess, or I guess a hole in it too. So
Any issues.
Any issue.
Yeah, I had these made. I just got them in. So basically, if anything gets messed up, they have to fill this card out, and then we learned about this on the I kind of do this now, but it's more word of mouth. And when Brett talked about it on the episode that comes out tomorrow, he was saying that they have actual physical cards. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that is awesome, because I can have them fill the card out, give it to the person who has to order it. The person who orders it gives it back to the customer service person, and that customer service person can let the customer know and whatever. So I couldn't sleep the other night. It was probably like 1 a.m. and I made these oops, I fucked up cards. And they came in. So I'm excited to use them.
That's pretty good. On our side, like we actually try to control that as much as possible on our order form sheet. So we have a section that says, do these need to be exact numbers? Because that is a constant problem.
That's a good idea. I like that.
And so we have that notated on it.
Which is a funny question if you think about it as the customer. They're like, I order 100 shirts, and you're like, do you really need 100 shirts?
I think the way that we state it is like, we put a little explanation underneath it. It's even on our invoices where we have an over underage percentage. So we make sure to state that so everyone understands that, like, hey, if you order 100 shirts, a shirt has a hole or some defect on the shirt itself, or maybe it got misprinted. We are allotted that over under percentage. But sometimes, when something's for an event, or like you have staff shirts made and they need those exact numbers, that indicates to us, hey, we have to order extra shirts so we have them on hand for when it goes on press. And then we're not having to deal with like resetting that job up later. It kind of saves us in the long run.
I have, so we don't have a card. I really like the card idea because it's small, but I wanted to share what we've been using. It's called the fix order. And so it looks like that. I think I've shared this before, but this is a fix order. And then down here.
Yeah, but yours doesn't have any cuss words on
it. But it says, I can change this. We can edit it, but it says, why are we fixing this? Mm-hmm. And then it says this hold. And the reason why we have that hold is it's torn off right there. And see how it says hold screens right there?
Yeah.
Because we want to make sure. So if we have to fix this, we want to make sure that screens don't accidentally get washed out and we have to remake, however many screens. Yeah. And so, anyway, I thought about this because if we're going to start tracking this data, I think we're going to create a column in Monday, and we're going to start tracking this data. I want to know every month and every year, like how many fixes we're doing because of holes, which are, not our fault, right? This isn't anything that we did, but we have to reset this job up. And then I want to know a total, like to have an idea, like, holy smokes, we spent $600, let's say, on resetting up jobs because of, something completely out of our control. And if I know that piece of data, well, then I can do something maybe like you're doing and say to customers, hey, okay, appreciate the order. And then just like you said, there's a certain amount of spoilage that occurs while printing, whether it's due to holes or misprints or whatever. Are these numbers firm, or if we're off 1%, is that cool? Because wouldn't that be cool to save X amount of dollars every year? If it's whatever that number is. But I don't know what that number is yet. And so I want to try and track it.
Sure.
If that makes sense.
That's a good idea.
it. It makes absolute sense, Andy.
Well, thanks for your support.
You're so smart. You're welcome.
Well, I'm not really that smart. I think what it is just like, you do this, you do this every day, and it's more about, I think, common sense. It's just more about, tweaking it as you go and trying to improve, every.
Oh, 100. I fully agree with you. And that's the reason why, like I said, I made these cards. Like we were doing this before. We were just not doing it the smartest way. We were just like, someone would come in and tell Chris like, hey, we messed up like 6 extra larges. Can you reorder these? And then Chris would have to like send an email or walk over to somebody and say, hey, 6 shirts got messed up. Let the customer know. And it's
you were doing
something
it
as stupid as like making a card. And then we can take this card and actually like transfer this data onto an Excel sheet and say, okay, like this keeps happening, or why are we having this issues? So it's stuff like that. It's just like you said, like, it's just little tweaks that we all need to learn and make and to better the business. It's really not, it's not really doing anything for screen printing. It's doing it more for our business side.
Yeah, but you were doing it it sounds like the Eric and Val way. You were working harder, not smarter. Is that what it was? Is that what you said earlier?
Yeah, working harder, not smarter.
We need to put that on a shirt.
Right. All right. Well, that was my story.
Cool story, man.
Yeah.
Chad, can you edit all that out, please? All right. So back to the story. You've got new rock presses. You guys are into water base. What are you guys doing now? Like we're trying to figure your story out, Val. You are still, this whole time, you're still kind of like production manager for the most part, correct?
Yeah, without saying I'm a production manager. I'm just kind
right. I know you're trying to figure a fancy title for yourself.
Engineer.
I get it.
No, she said engineer.
Right,
yeah.
Right.
And I mean, right now I'm that conduit from invoicing to production.
And actually making it happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So I'm the one that, unfortunately, it's an all-encompassing job. But yeah, I mean, I have a hand in all of that, even when it comes down to like quoting jobs out. Like Eric is sending that stuff over to me. I tell him how many colors it is. And all of that's done before an invoice is created, so we don't run into issues. I mean, we still run into issues where it's like, oh, I missed a color, or this is actually going to take a lot longer to separate than I anticipated, stuff like that.
Right.
But I feel like it's super crucial to have someone like me who has an idea of the art as well as the production side of things to be able to like merge everything together. It's at least for our shop, it's super crucial.
And I think we have that too, where I think it's something that not a lot of shops can get until you get into like more of like an aged situation, because the staff that you have running things and the staff that you have like doing, say, like art department or anything like that, if they used to be a printer, it's so much easier and you get so many less headaches and you get so much better quality things because that person knows exactly where this color should go or exactly like issues you're going to have with this if this touches this or whatever. And it's like that's how we have with Brian. Like he's already a whiz at doing like SEPs and everything else, but like he used to print for us for years, and it's like he knows exactly where to call things out. And like when he does like kind of like you were saying earlier, like he'll note on the job like this color flash, this color flash. Like they don't have to figure it out on press. They're not like, where do I put the screens?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like a lot of people will just be like, okay, it's an 8-color job and this screen is 1 through 8.
Yeah. And
then the press ops have to like figure it out. Now they can just be like, oh, head 1, head 2, room for a flash, 4, 5, 6, whatever. And I feel like that's a crucial thing that you should like, I don't know. It's kind of hard. It's not like you can like strive to do that. You're not like, hey, I want you to print for 4 years. And then after that, you're going to be in the office.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that may not even be something that someone wants to do.
No. Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, that is something that I do. I call out where screens are going to be. I call out what mesh it's going to be. I call out what ink is going on that press. That is something that I'm handling. And it's not something as easy as teaching somebody to do. Like I know it because I've been on press. I know it because I created those inks. I know it because I see the art and I know what it's supposed to look like. I mean, At the end of the day, when they show me that proof before they go to production, does that look like the art? And, sometimes I'm not right. Sometimes we have to remake screens or we have to redo that SEP or we have to swap out inks. it's not as simple. It's not so simple. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that kind of leads into, I guess, one of my questions was, I know you guys are kind of steering into like hybrid printing.
Yeah.
Are you doing that more because the opportunity arose, or more because you are finding that it makes sense for your business, or it's kind of just like you're nerding out and want to go that direction just so you're kind of ahead of the curve a little bit? Where do you stand on that, I guess?
I would say all of the above. Yeah, we currently have, I think, what is called the Rock Hybrid 2.5 on our oval right now. And actually tomorrow we're getting 3.0.
Yeah, Eric told me you got the other one. So
yeah.
I was talking to him the other day and I was just saying, like, I'm getting a quote on a DS right now.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of in that same boat as you, is like, it was in the all the above category. It's not like, oh, let's just get this because it's the next thing to do. It's more, there is the headaches go away with a lot of the sim process stuff because you can tweak it on the computer and then hit print and go again. There's no making all these screens over again. There's, okay, let's just do 3 white screens instead of 14 screens and mix 14 inks and, all this 100%. Other stuff. So I just wanted to get your feel on, like, you've been using the 2.5 or whatever for a while now. How do you feel about it? Do you feel like it's going to be a big part of the shop, or it's just a tool that you're kind of using here and there? Or
I do think it's going to be a big part of the shop. I'm really excited to start playing with the 3.0 when it comes in and is installed. I think it's going to be about a 2-week install / class on it.
Well, the 2.5 is going away and the new one's taking its place, correct?
Yeah, but there are some different things about it. So I think we have some rock techs coming in from Portugal that are going to help ease that into our shop. So this past year we were doing so many sim process jobs, so many 12 to 14 color jobs that it was like, okay, we need so many screens. We need to create all these inks. We need to tweak art. If this is wrong, we've got to take it off press, get it back on press. It's like, it's kind of a headache, but at the same time, like, we know what we're getting into. But when the hybrid came into play, it was like, well, like you said, if I can throw up 2 bases and you've got your primer or tie coat,
like an overprint
coat and all that stuff, you're limiting your screens. You're using less emulsion, you're prepping less ink, all of that stuff. Even like the changeover between jobs, it's less time, and if we did need to change anything in the art, we could do that digitally
on the fly.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's not as simple as it's made out to be, I will say. There is a lot of learning that goes along with it. It's not necessarily a plug and play.
Right. No, I kind of learned that just by talking to different people that had it. Like, one of the things that stood out to me in the beginning was the just trying not to have head strikes with seams and stuff. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to position your art specifically, or your t-shirt on the pallet specifically. There's a lot of that. And then, not to even mention the color profiling, like, all that stuff has to be dialed in. It's a lot to relearn. But thankfully, like, our art director is also doing like art prints for us. So printing paper prints on like a Roland, and that's all the color profiling that he is having to do with that type of machine, he can implement into the hybrid printer. And that's, having him have that knowledge was super crucial, because I don't know it, so having someone who understands that stuff is also like very important. But
right. That's the one thing that scares me, honestly.
Yeah.
Is like, I've spent my whole career figuring this screen printing thing out. And then it's like, okay, cool. Like, exactly like you said, like, you get a digital printer in here, it's not plug and play. Mm-hmm. You're having issues with colors and curves. And then, like, me and Andy, we went and spent a day with Michelle
Yeah.
And she was showing us all this digital stuff, and she's talking about like, yeah, it took me like 16 years to figure out the curves. And I was just like, I'm exaggerating, but it's just kind of like, you have this person who's like super fucking smart in this area, and she's still figuring stuff out. And you're like, okay, I'm a moron. Like when I get this thing, like,
I mean, it still is the same thought process too when you're screen printing. I mean, there's still things that I'm still learning about screen printing itself.
Right.
So,
but that's what I'm saying is it's just another thing to like add to the stress ball of like.
Well, I guess what it comes down to is like, well, what do you want to stress about?
Right.
Like, so I think it's something that we can utilize. And once we've got it in place and we've learned it and we're rolling, I think, we can start utilizing it better. There are definitely some things right now where I don't think you can't print neon colors or like specialty inks and stuff. You've got to set up a screen for that.
Right. You could do separate.
But it definitely saves time and and energy.
Right. No, I mean I fully get it. So you guys are all on board with it.
It's definitely a little bit of a learning curve, but yeah, we're on board. We want to get this like in place and start learning it because it's a whole other thing for me to like kind of conquer.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it also comes down to your clients, and so you have to, I mean, they're not cheap. And so I don't know how much the rock one is, but I know how much the digital squeegee is. And if you're going to budget for something like that, and then all of the R&D and all of the learning curve and everything else, well then, I mean, the inks aren't free that go into it. And so sure, you're going to save money on, screens and stuff. But I mean, all these things have to be considered and you have to have the client for it. And so if you're a shop that's printing, 1 through 6 colors with an occasional 7 or 8, sometimes
and it's
9,
not for you.
well then, yeah, it's not going to be for you. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, I think that's really important. I think that because people are always saying, oh, is screen printing going away?
No.
And is it being replaced by digital? And maybe one day off in, the year 3000 or something, it may be.
I still feel like there's going to be a place for it. I don't think you're going to want to set up like, your black prints or white prints.
You're not going to want to do like 4,000 shirts with a white ink on it. You're not going to want to do those digital.
You have to think about how long it takes to print. Like they're not at this moment,
Mm-hmm.
the hybrid printers are not super fast. Like we can set up a 12 color simulated process job and screen print it faster than these hybrids can print them,
for sure.
And so that's also something you got to take into account. It's like, well, if you're looking at the time it takes, all these things, if you calculate it, I don't know, I feel like they would probably even out. So it really is just like a decision of like where you want to go, and how, if that's where you think you're going to go in the future. There's room for it.
Yeah. The thing is, I've heard people kind of go back and forth on this. And I think the biggest thing is like, it's like you said, it's the labor up front with a 12 color that you're thinking the time wise. It's not actually when it's set up on press and go. Like if you set up both and you're like, okay, hit go. Yeah, obviously the screen printed ones are going to get done faster because they're ready to go. But with a digital, it's like, okay, I set up 3 screens, hit go. Mm-hmm. You're going to still have quite a bit of time before the screen printed guys are caught up to even start printing it because they have to set everything up, mix all the inks, tear it all down, everything at the end. But I feel like the other side of this coin is the way the world is right now. And I feel like for me, I want it because I just want to nerd out on it. I want to do it and I'm in the same boat as you. Like we're doing a ton of like 10, 12, 14 color prints like every week. It's like, it's not like once a month. It's like, okay, we have 5 this week, 6 next week, whatever. And it's like, that would save us a ton on that. But it's the way the world is right now where art is so digital. Like you could have any one of your customers could go out and take a photo with their phone and then they can put 5 filters on it and say, print this.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like it's not the same as like, okay, I've got this guy or girl who sketched this drawing, color it. You still have those, but I feel like more and more nowadays, everyone's getting into like the, I just did everything on my tablet or everything on like some digital something.
Yeah.
And they want it that way. You know what I mean? And with screen print, we were always taught of like, okay, this customer came in with this 18 color print. Let's talk them down to get it to work at 6. You know what I mean? Like that, we all know that story. It's like, okay, let's make it work at this. But like the customer, as soon as you tell them that, they're like, okay, well then what's it going to look like?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They immediately are like, well, fuck, this isn't going to look like what I want it to look like. So that's the thing with like the DS any digital is it's just kind of like, it's going to look like this. Like,
yeah, that customer sounds like a problem anyway. And I think the real reason why you want a DS is to rub it in my face.
1,000%. I'm willing to spend the cost of a DS just so I can say, hey, Andy.
I knew it. Funny thing, we install the Cobra. We just got a new press, Val. We have a 14 color Cobra.
Nice.
And we're really stoked about it. And we're excited to, I don't know if you've ever done this, but like the first print on your new press, you want to make it like cool, right? You're like, what are we going to print on the first? Like, what's going to be our first print? And so we had this idea. We had a shop shirt. We were going to say, okay, well, let's run this. But the way things worked out, we just didn't have time.
No.
And so we
I was this close to being proud of you for saying you're making shop shirts.
Nope. We have this 14 color press, 16 pallets, brand new fresh pallet tape. So of course we want to run this 100% poly job, and it was a 1 color job.
Well, you're going to start with easy, right?
Yeah, maybe that. Hey, see, there you go. See, it was white ink too. So we were being smart, taking it easy. Which actually,
first job can't be a failure.
Yeah, it did. We didn't mess any up. And the good thing is, though, actually, that we didn't know is. Remember when you get a new press, usually the squeegee floods and everything, it's all kind of dialed in the same. And so the squeegee angles and the flood angles, everything wasn't perfect. And so if it was like a big color job or whatever, it would have taken forever to get it just right. So now we're kind of just going like head to head and getting the pressures right and all that kind of stuff.
Nice.
But yeah, 1 color job.
Proud of you. Hey, proud of you, bud. Way to challenge the status quo on that thing.
Yep.
That leads into my next question. Is there's a ton of people in this industry that I talk to all the time, and we all talk shop and whatever, but there's a couple people that I really respect and talk to when it comes to like super nerd stuff, like print nerd stuff. And you and Eric are on that list for me of like, I really respect what you guys do. And I know you guys really look into things and learn those things. And when we were having lunch together in Long Beach, you were talking about how you were going to study color theory stuff.
Yes.
Is that just for you super nerding, or is that something that you're kind of implementing into the shop? Or
it was a little bit of both. So that event was mainly for digital. Not on the hybrid side of screen printing, but more like printing on the Roland and stuff like that. So paper printing and things like that. So I had my art director and my also the promo art director come out to San Diego to attend it with me, so that we can, I guess, get a little bit more background on that, because they're starting to do more art prints. I think it's called B-clay prints. So that's something we're offering to our fulfillment customers. I wanted them to get a little bit more knowledge on color profiles and things like that. And I wanted to go myself because, I wanted to nerd out, but I also wanted to understand it a little bit more.
Right. Because
that's not really my world. And I also had questions for a lot of the classes that I was attending, is like, okay, well, this is, you're telling me this is for digital printing and for these types of printers, but how does that, how can I implement this into hybrid printing, which is, something that we're starting to do. And it was funny because the one class that I did ask that to the instructor, he was like, you know what? The person that was going to be teaching this class is actually working on that at M&R right now. And
was it Michelle?
No. I don't recall his name, but he was like, so he's actually working on that for the next next year's color event. And I was like, okay, well, now I want to talk to him probably. But I mean, I do have all these questions about how the future of this hybrid printing is going to go and how much instruction we're going to have. I mean, with Eric and I putting this 3.0 into our shop, we are alpha testing it. And it was something that we wanted to do because we wanted to know a little bit more about this type of machine and how it can help us in our shop. We've talked with Michelle, we've gone to M&R and seen the digital squeegee and what it can do. And it's super exciting to see it in action. But with Michelle, she's kind of got it dialed, but she's taken how long to learn it and take it apart and put it back together and all this. That's what we have to do with the hybrid. And it's a lot of work, but it's also a lot of commitment. And when you're still trying to do production, it gets a little frustrating when you don't have that information up front. It's like, well, how do I get...
And you're the one that has to figure it out.
Yeah.
It's not like you can hop on a call and be like, hey, this is happening. What's going on?
Yeah.
It's like, all right, well, you fucking tell me. You have it in front of you.
Yeah. So it's kind of, it's cool that we're getting to do that, but that we're kind of hopefully paving the way to help other printers be able to knock this out of the park and make it a little bit easier for them.
Isn't it neat though to be involved in an alpha or a beta test because, you know, you're there, you're on that frontier of testing out a new product or a new ink or whatever it is, a new piece of equipment, and a little bit of what you do and a little bit of what you guys kind of figure out gets to go into the end result and gets to help the manufacturer and also the printers in the future make that product better. I mean, we've done it before, and I mean, it's just it's the neatest thing because, like you said, it's frustrating because, you know, you have to spend some time on it. Yes. But you also learn the ins and outs of it. It seems like better, you know, so like we're doing these, we're beta testing a part on this new Cobra, these new membrane switches I've talked about. Mm-hmm. And I've already, it seems pretty neat. But I can already tell, like, wait, this is going to take some extra time. It's going to take some extra time getting used to. You know, it's going to slow some people down at first, and you almost take a step backwards before you take some steps forward. Excuse me, but I don't know. It's really cool to be involved in that because it's sort of a continuing education in a way. You know, absolutely.
I mean, for us, it's like, well, how can we? Well, basically, it's like, well, we're taking that. How can we fail so that we can learn? And that's really what it is. It's like everything that can go wrong is going to go wrong. We just have to anticipate that. And we have to work our way back up to get it to where we need it to be. So just going in with that mindset is probably the most helpful thing. But yeah, I mean, we understand our role in this, and we're just hoping that we can come out the other side.
Where do you see your guys, like, where do you see Night Owls going at this point? Like, what's the future according to you?
Well, I mean, the goal for me right now is to try to get out of this print engineer role and to pass that on to someone else. So that's my biggest struggle, and honestly will be the biggest struggle for Night Owls. Beyond that, I'm not really sure. I definitely still want to be a part of everything. I think with Eric, he's even when you guys interviewed him, he said that he still wanted to always be on the production floor, still in it. And I do still see the value in that, but I also know that, like, as an owner, you shouldn't be on the production floor. You need to be behind the scenes. And that's the hardest thing for me to, like, wrap my head around because I still want to be in it. I don't know what my role would be if I stepped out of that. It's kind of hard to answer.
Yeah, but like you said before, is like you want to alpha this new machine, but you still have daily production.
Mm-hmm.
like if you had someone doing your job now that was focused on daily production, you could step back a little bit and still do that stuff, but could spend, 85% of your time trying to figure out this new piece of machinery that's going to push night owls ahead again. You know what I mean? You'd have so much more time. That's kind of like my role now is like, I used to be involved with like ordering shirts and like customer service and like all this other stuff. And I was so scared to let some of it go because I felt like, well, then what the fuck am I doing? Like, I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not in the day-to-day of the shop.
Right.
And I'm not at all really now. Like, I don't do anything other than like I order supplies.
Right.
But like, that's not every day. That's just like other things. But like, I'm still doing other things. And I've noticed the shop growing business-wise so much more since I got out of those things because I can focus on the shit that like I dreamt of.
That's
you know what I mean? It's like, oh, I want to get into this, or I want to have this piece of equipment, or I want to get into this market. It's like, okay, cool. I've got all the time in the world now to like focus on those things to like kind of implement them and make them a reality. But the catch-22 is like I was saying earlier, is like, now I'm just a dude in the office. And then I'm like, I have this grand idea to change the stuff. And they're like, fuck you. You don't have to do it all day. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that harsh, but it's like, the transition isn't like, I'm not out there like baby stepping everything. It's like, I'm like, all right, here's this thing. We're going to get this guy in here that knows this, and he's going to train you and do this other stuff. It's just kind of like me being able to let go of a lot of this stuff over the past like 12 years or whatever. It's kind of just been like, all right, cool. Like I can make a fucking dream board basically, which is like across from me. It's like, it's true. Like, it's funny, but it's like, now I can focus on those things. I can be like, oh, cool. I want to make this like thing part of the shop. And like, I'm able to do that.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I haven't really thought of that, and being able to like maybe transition into more of an R&D type person. I think that would be really neat for me. And a good way for me to still be in things, but not necessarily in like fully in production. You know what I mean?
Right. But like, it's like, in the back of your mind, like your wish list for the shop, like, the things that you want to do to make Night Owl better, but like, how much of your time can you daily, what you're doing now, actually apply to doing those things and making those things a reality? It's like, what, maybe like 5-10%, if that, really?
If that. Yeah,
right.
exactly.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, if you got that person to just do the monotonous, like daily tasks that you're doing now, and then you step back into that, like those things are going to happen so much faster and so much easier.
Hold on. That is so much easier said than done, because
definitely. I'm not saying, it's just fucking pop someone in.
Because just like what Val was saying earlier, is that she's bringing all of this experience. She's been to virus classes. She knows how her shop flows and the production. And so you're going to bring somebody in, probably
she's going to have to teach them.
Probably. In this case, though, a lot of times that role is best filled by internally by somebody that's already been there and sort of, they're familiar with night owls. But I kind of think like, so I was talking to Grizzly earlier, and we were talking about, he was like, man, how do you even like sleep at night with all of those employees? Like, how do you do that?
That's the question Josh asks me every time we talk about anything. He's like, how do you deal with people, human beings?
I gave him an answer. I think, and it occurred to me right when we were talking. And I think it's this. I think there's a magic number. I think there's a magic number of employees that makes all of that easier. So like if you are Josh and you're in Josh's case, or a lot of other people's cases where you have to add an employee, that employee is going to be constantly going to Josh, or constantly going, whether it's 1, 2, 3, or even maybe the first 7 or 8 employees, they're sort of just answering to you in a sense. And you all of a sudden have 8 more headaches than you used to. But all of a sudden, I think you cross this threshold and it just becomes easier. Why? Because for example, there's somebody starting tomorrow. It's going to be her first day, but I'm literally probably not going to even talk to her, and I'm not going to ever answer. Not like on purpose, but
can you do that though? Can you see how long you can go without saying a word to her and let me know?
Okay, all right. But she's going into shipping and receiving department, because we just have one full time there, and we usually pull other like quality control or somebody else that goes to support when we get too many boxes or whatever. And I knew that this year we couldn't do it again like we did last year. It's just overwhelming. And so I got somebody that's going to be there full time with Brooke. But here's the thing, like Brooke is going to train her. And she's going to answer to Brooke. And if she can't make it or she's late, she's not texting me, she's texting Brooke. And so in other words, it's not really a headache. Sure, there may be an instance where I may have to, if there's some sort of disciplinary action, well, that might eventually escalate to me. But generally,
I would love to be disciplined by you sometime.
Well, I'll call you later. But look, here's the thing. Like I'm totally serious. Like I think there's a magic number, and I don't know what it is, because so many people fear, and so many people are like, I don't want to hire anyone because I can't deal with that shit. I don't want to be a babysitter. And but really, I think there's a spot where at one point it's way easier. And I don't know where
I
that's
fully get what you're saying. I 100% agree with you. I just think that you have to do that for a certain point. Like what you're doing is you're getting your core people or your core staff. And then once you have that, those people can train the other people.
Yeah.
Like, but you have to get those core people trained up, and you have to like pull your like desires and like knowledge that your passion for the industry, and you kind of have to like put that into those core people, and then those core people are like, oh, I got this, you know what I mean? Like just like you said, like you're going to have that girl train the other girl, but you can't do that without having the first girl. So like that's the magic number, is like how many people does it take for me to, I guess it's the skeleton crew. It's like how many people does it take for me to run this shop, and I can trust those people to do those jobs. And then when you're adding more employees to take the stress load off, it's those skeleton crew that's like training the other people, and they're just like the managers of their domain, I guess is what it is. But I think the magic number is just like how many people, what's the lowest amount of people it takes for you to run your shop, and do I trust those people?
Yeah, I think we've just recently started to have those key people in place in our shop. And I think the one that we're missing is someone to take over my spot, which would be the print engineer. But like we have a really good production manager right now. And the really shitty thing right now is that like when people are out, he has to step in and like run the press or pull off shirts when needed. And so that kind of takes away from his job and him growing in that position. So it's something that we're still trying to like, we're building these people up so that we don't have to, micromanage or whatever. But yeah, it's nice. I feel really proud of who we have in place with like Tim, our production manager, just won the award.
Yeah, saw that.
He's ready too.
It's super cool to see, people that we put in place and seeing them grow.
Yeah. I wanted to bring this up real quick, but I got to look up what the listener questions came in. But it's funny. I haven't even said anything to them, but I keep noticing it is like Chris and Sarah are like two of my key people here. Chris has been with me. He's my best friend. He's been here forever. Like since I started the company, Sarah came in, I don't know, however many years ago now. And now they're like a love fucking interest, and they're like getting married and all this other stuff. So I have them here, but they both wear stuff that you guys print, and they're not aware of it at all. And I see it all the time. And I'm just like, it's the Emma Atterbury.
Yeah.
But they wear like, they have like sweatpants and like hoodies and like all this stuff, and they wear it all the time. And I'm like, hey, like that's another shop that I'm friends with them. You know what I mean? And they're like if I told them, they'd be like, okay, cool.
Okay.
Like, but I'm just like, oh, I see those prints all the time.
Nice. It's exciting.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to bring it up because it's like I see it all the time.
Yeah.
I'm like, I know where that comes from.
Yeah, I mean, it's a extra special for us, especially when we're walking at different events, whether it's like a concert and it's like, oh, I can point out 5 different shirts that I've made here. Or even if we're at like a trade show and it's exciting to see people wearing things that we've printed. It's super exciting.
Mm-hmm. Hold on here. Let me see if I can find a good question. Oh, okay. JMH Graphics asks, if considering water-based printing, what is the first thing you recommend researching?
If you're just stepping into it without any knowledge, I highly recommend looking up that virus certified water-based mastery class. It is still online. I think you do have to pay for it, but it helped us immensely. Like, even if there was stuff that we knew already, it's still like a deep dive. And
so that's still available for like anybody to just get.
Yeah, I recommend that because it'll get you to where you want to be.
Mm-hmm. What was that? You said it was the virus one?
Mm-hmm. It's virus certified water-based mastery class.
Okay, I'll have to look it up. I've never taken it, but
I think they only did it 2 years. It was like 2018 and 2019. And then
I haven't seen it anywhere since then.
I think the website's still up, so it should be like accessible.
Right. I'm just saying, like, for a while there, I heard like virus all the time, and now it's like,
oh yeah.
But I don't know. All of these are just like pretty much the same water-based questions. Well, I mean, that's good though. Like, that's what you guys are known for, is like, you know.
Yeah, I mean,
you guys are known for being really good water-based printers. But yeah, I mean, I think honestly, all these like kind of got answered in the already, like we already talked about it. But I think a lot of people just want to know like how to get into water-based. Do you like it? Is it worth switching? Is it worth doing half and half, or is it worth doing all water-based versus all plastisol? And I think, like I said, we kind of already went over that. Is like, you feel for your shop and the way that you're doing things, you feel like water-based 100%. Yeah,
I think it benefited our shop specifically. It kind of set us apart and it made us better printers. Advice for other shops that are looking to get into it, I would say definitely do the research first. Don't try to dive in like we did, because you will fail. But I mean, if you're okay with that, if you're okay with learning from your failure, then sure, go for it. But I would maybe recommend starting small, do a couple colors, do one colors first.
Right, like you said, do white and black.
Build upon that. Yeah, because I don't recommend trying to go all in like we did and do a simulated process for your first full water-based print. Start small.
Mm-hmm. Or get whatever company or brand you're going to use, get a rep from them to come in and kind of show you how to use those products.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a big thing. Like, learn how to make your screens, learn how to build your inks. A lot of that is like asking a lot of questions. Don't feel like you have to be alone in it. I mean, that's the great thing about the screen printing community is like, when we first started, we didn't have that support. Like, we had the shirt board, everybody saw that, but I personally didn't have any help. I had Eric, and Eric had the time to like look up things online and ask people. And I was on the background doing this stuff. So, I definitely see a benefit in asking questions and asking people for help. I mean, nowadays it's just, people are so much more open and willing to help. I think that's super, super good.
Yeah, I agree with you. Val, do you have any questions for us?
I feel like I did, and now I forgot. Darn it. I actually have like a list of people that I'm like, oh, I want you to interview these people because I want to
do that. Yeah.
I'll email you that. I have a question, and it's a really dumb question, but John Mulaney's coming to town. You think you can get us some tickets?
Oh yeah, I'll pull that together.
Hell yeah.
I mainly talk to his manager, but I mean that's the guy you call when you want tickets. So let's figure that out.
Nice. I texted Dylan that he's coming to St. Louis, and
I deleted. The best part is not only did I not respond, I just deleted that text.
Yeah, I was going to say he just said he goes cool. That's it. I didn't get tickets.
All right.
Okay, Val. Do you have any shop hacks?
I don't know if it's necessarily a shop hack, but this is something that bugs me to no end. And I guess it would be more of a client hack. Reply all. Just fucking reply all. It's the bane of my existence when I am talking to a customer about art specs, and then they constantly are asking me pricing questions. And it's like, no, Eric was CC'd in. He handles all the pricing questions. I am strictly all art and production questions. Let me CC him back in. It drives me crazy. But if people could just reply all, that would be fantastic.
Some people don't know how. I'm
No, they
fully
don't.
convinced that they just don't know how.
So this is actually a setting in we use Google as our backend for email, and you literally just have to choose it as a setting. It's like always reply all.
It's like a rule that you can.
Yeah. And I make everybody that works here, that is the first thing they do when they get their email set up is make sure reply all is selected, because it drives me crazy.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely continuing education on just emails. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because so many people do it all wrong. I get emails still to this day in all caps from people. You know?
Or the entire subject of what they want to say is in the subject line.
Yeah. Well, you get people that are texting it instead of emailing it. And I don't know where the confusion comes with that, but I get those as well, where they think they're texting it and it's like an email. I don't know.
My also favorite is that they attach the photos in the email and not attached to the email.
Yeah. It's like embedded in the email.
And then you have to like side scroll like 100 times to get the full image in there. It's just like,
yeah.
Are you talking about when they think they're texting it, meaning that it's just like one giant run-on sentence? Mm-hmm. Is that what you mean? Yeah.
Well, but it's in the subject line.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Where it's like, hey, I wanted to check in on my order, wondered if it would be here by this day. Hope all is well. And that's all the subject.
Yeah.
So yeah, stuff like that.
It's crazy.
Right. All right. Let's do some quick takes.
Yes, let's. Val, what's one thing you need every single day?
One thing I need. I don't have anything special. It would be water. Water and my dogs.
The dogs, like water for the dogs?
No, and my dogs. Two separate things.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I was told that I need to be drinking or consuming water with more electrolytes in it. I don't know why, but
I mean, yeah, if you're dehydrated.
Like, you know how you can get the Pedialyte or the baby, you know what I mean? That has electric. So I guess I have
the
to
baby?
start doing that. Yeah, it's like,
yeah, you get the baby. I'm going to elaborate on this. Are you a bottled water or a tap water person? Be honest.
Bottled water, but like I have my own bottle that I refill with filtered water.
Okay, so it's still
More
filtered.
Complicated.
Yeah, I'll straight up drink it out of the tap. Like I won't even use a cup. I'll just put my head in the sink and like drink it out of the sink.
You haven't had St. Louis water though. I don't know what the water's like in Houston.
It's all right.
I remember as a kid just drinking water out of a garden hose, like outside.
Yep,
nothing
definitely
mattered. Like it was
or a
the
creek.
Best.
And by creek, I mean the ditch next to the house. Definitely done that.
No, but I know that Eric are you guys both, I thought what was the not Tivana?
Tiava.
No. Was it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you like that too?
I do.
Or is that
I like unsweet tea.
Fuck yeah, Val.
Yep. Yeah. But yeah, Tiava is kind of the big drink around here. They just came out with a peach flavored, even though it doesn't really taste like peach. It smells like peach. I guess I like that.
I felt bad because when I sent you that case of Tiava, I think I'm saying that right. It was plastic because I went online to do it and I was trying to send you glass, but at the time, because of COVID, there was just no glass available. So I'm like, well, they're going to probably think I'm sending it to the sustainable, like water-based shops. These plastic bottles are probably be like, Andy's such an idiot. You know, what a piece of shit.
They don't need that to say that.
Say it anyway.
That's just the normal.
Okay, Dylan, what's the next question?
Favorite snack?
I really like pie.
That's Val, that's not a snack.
That's a snack. That's definitely a snack.
You have pie at all times sitting around the house where you're like, I'm going to go get some pie right now.
What kind of pie?
Pie, key lime.
Key lime?
Okay, I guess if you don't want to take a dessert.
I'm thinking like pretzels. You're like, oh, an entire key lime pie.
I really love Doritos Cool Ranch. It's not good for you, and I don't like to have it around because I will eat the whole bag.
Well, that's a given. You can't eat some Doritos.
No, but That was always my go-to, but I don't have it around because of that reason.
But it is good for you because it's good and it's for you. Always tell yourself that. The next question is, where is your happy place?
My happy place. I have several happy places. On the day-to-day, I would say my happy place is on the couch in front of the TV with my dogs and Eric. On big picture, happy place is like anywhere near the Pacific Ocean. I grew up on an island, and so I love to be on the beach. And then I guess for a special happy place, I would say like gardening.
Like straight gardening or just yard work in general?
Not yard work.
I was gonna say yard work is my happy place.
Is
like
it?
Summer yard work is like, well, I would do that shit all day long.
I love like tending to plants and stuff. I don't get to do it very often. And with the Texas heat and now with the Texas freezes, it's really annoying because everything dies outside. So I have to like grow everything indoors. But I do like that.
Is there anything specific in your garden you like to grow?
Not anything specific. I'm pretty good at growing orchids, I guess. That was kind of shocking because I didn't think I could grow orchids or keep them alive. They're kind of hard, but yeah. I have several.
I have a bunch of fruit stuff in my backyard. I have like pears and apples and grapes and blueberries.
Dang.
And what else is back there?
How big is your yard?
I have a big backyard.
That's just growing. That stuff's growing wildly, or you plant it.
It's all been the apple tree is wild, but everything else is planted. My grapes like fucking destroyed. Like I put up 4x4s in the ground and put like a cable from the 4x4 to a pine tree because you want the grapes to be like elevated.
Yeah.
And I planted one like when I bought the house, and this was probably like 9 years ago. And the stalk on it now is probably like this big around.
Right.
And like it is 100% the pine tree now. Like there's grapes that grow on the cable like they're supposed to, but 99% of the grapes, like big bushels of grapes, are the entire pine tree.
Wow.
And it's a big pine tree. So like there's like there's like a harvest for everybody, but I can't get any of it because it's in this pine tree. So this year I'm actually going to get the pine tree cut off at the same height as the 4x4. And then I'm going to build this like big lattice thing that like I can grow all those, like a ton of grapes on the lattice. So all I got to do is like reach up and like pull grapes down.
Nice.
But yeah, now it just kind of sucks because it's like you knew this thing like grew this entire time and it's so proud of itself to like take over this whole area, and I have to like cut it off.
That's cool.
But you know,
you're a piece of shit.
Fuck you, Andy. What are you watching right now? You said you like to watch TV, so I'm happy on this one because that's also my happy place. Is end of the day, watch a movie. Yeah.
I do like watching movies. We don't do it as much as watching TV shows just because we don't have like extended periods on the couch. It's usually like while we're making.
But what TV shows though?
Right now we're watching all of King of the Hill because I've never seen it.
Okay. I was not expecting that.
I'm enjoying it. And I think we're on season 4, maybe. I don't know. And then I'm also watching, I think it's called The Fabulous Mrs. Maisel, something like that.
Marvelous Mrs.
Maisel. Yeah, I love that show.
Yeah. We were just talking about that with Brett. He was talking about that was the show he's watching.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some of that was filmed here where I live.
Oh.
I don't remember. I only watched like that episode, but I think it's like the first season. They're at like at the lake, and there's like fireworks and stuff, and they're like laying down on a blanket, and there's like boats and stuff. That was here.
Ooh.
It was right in your backyard. They were picking grapes.
In my backyard, they were picking grapes, and
awesome. Oh, okay, yeah. So, 2 autos or 10 autos?
2. I don't want 10. That is so much responsibility. Yeah, I think I'm happy with where we are right now. We technically have 3 autos, but we're actually selling the Sportsman. We want to. I want to downsize a little bit. But I think during our busy seasons, we're probably going to need a third auto. Just right now, though, things are a little bit slow, and I kind of like it. I kind of like.
So, how can people contact you? Because there's somebody that's definitely going to want to buy that.
Yeah, I know that Eric has an ad on Facebook. I don't know if he's posted it anywhere else, but yeah, I guess just email us.
I saw it the other day and I was like, oh man. The nice part about it was you guys had like a ton of pallets for it.
Yeah, we have a ton of pallets. Like for a long time, we were using the Sportsman for sleeve prints and tote bag prints specifically. And
you had like a hoodie zip one too, didn't you?
Yeah, we do. I think we even have bandana pallets for it too.
Oh,
how many colors is it?
Well, I'm going to hit you up and be like, hey, don't sell those with the press.
I think it's 8 colors, if I remember correctly.
And you have 8 bandana pallets?
I'm pretty sure.
Well, fucking.
I could be wrong,
right,
but I'm pretty sure.
Okay. How do you feel about aliens? Do you feel like they're real, and are they here already?
Is this a new question?
It is now.
I'm open to the idea of aliens.
Come on, don't dance around it.
Oh. I don't know. It's funny because like my dad always used to tell me stories about being in the military and how he was like, I think he over exaggerated a lot. He's always like, yeah,
that's what dads do.
Area 51. And I mean, he grew up in New Mexico. So, you know, White Sands is right there.
He's seen them.
My uncle works at White Sands. So it's like, yeah, he's always telling me all these stories. And I'm just like, okay, I'm open to the idea. I if there are aliens, cool.
The funny thing is like, I love the idea of aliens and like, it's just a fun thing to think about all the time. But like, I love now that like so much shit is going on and on our planet and like people being assholes and like everything that's happening is seeing all the memes of like when aliens go by Earth, they lock the windows or like they're looking at season 2022 of Earth and they're like, oh my God, this happened. I'm like, no way. Now they're doing World War III and COVID. And it's like, it just hurts my heart.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, have you watched Ancient Aliens, that show?
I honestly stay away from that show because I just don't like the goofy stuff. Like I legit like the people who are like, I fucking know, like, you know what I mean? Like people who actually like research and like, there's this whole thing on whatever, like that's the stuff where when I get done watching it, I'm like, this is real. These guys 100% know what they're talking about. But like shit that's like ancient aliens are like, did you know that like the center of the earth is like a fucking like, and it's just like, dude.
I love that dude with like the hair that does this,
yes.
You know? Yeah, I trust him 100%, whatever that guy says.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
All right, so Val, what's for dinner?
We are probably going to either get Chinese or Thai takeout.
Ooh.
Yep.
What do you get at both?
I'm a big fan of soup. I know you're not.
As soon as you said soup, I lost all respect for you.
Wow. Tom Yum soup is my go-to. Eric's is pad Thai. That's if we're getting Thai. If it's Chinese, I like sesame chicken, but subbing it out for tofu. We don't eat meat.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that. So that makes it difficult then at both of those places. Well, Chinese, I guess, is...
Yeah, yeah, you can get... There's a lot of veggie dishes for sure.
Yep. Lots of veggie dishes.
Yeah. I was going to say Thai, I was one of those foods that I was like never... Like the way I grew up in my family, they'd be like, I ain't getting that. But like now that I'm older and I had the chance to like try it myself, I love Thai food. It's
like probably our go-to at least once a week.
I don't remember what half of them were called because I feel like I just order the same shit all the time.
You get noodles?
But I get, well, the best part is when you get it takeout, like you get the rice and then you get like the tubs of whatever you're putting on the rice. They both just look like diarrhea or baby puke. Like one is like green with like shit floating in it. And another one is like tan with stuff floating in it. I think the one that I like is, what is it? It's got like
Is it
I
curry?
want to say it's like yellow curry.
Okay.
It's got like potatoes and big chunks of carrots and chicken, and I think it's got pineapple in it.
Yeah.
But I hate pineapple, so I always take the pineapple out. But like the flavor of the sauce and like the potatoes and carrots and all that stuff is amazing.
Yeah.
And then I think I get like Thai fried rice, which is like, I don't know, it's just good. But those are the foods that I like.
So good. I mean, that's kind of like the Asian culture is what I grew up with. My mom is Filipino, so that's my norm. Every dish came with rice.
Mm-hmm.
And then I came to the States and I was like, I don't know what to order.
Right. All right. Well, thanks, Val, for coming on and doing this. We've been wanting to have you on for a really long time.
Thanks for having me.
But we appreciate you and the knowledge and everything you're doing. I would definitely want to hear more about your 3.0.
3.0, yeah.
And how that's going.
We'll be posting about it more, I'm sure. Eric is the one that kind of handles Instagram. So if you have questions, he'll be answering.
Yeah, he talks a lot of shit to me on there. So
that's what he does.
I'll stay in touch. And good luck with your hunt for your replacement.
Yeah, thank you.
Hopefully that goes smooth. Are you hoping to do that this year?
I'm starting training, actually. I just have to build out.
So you already have the person?
I do have someone in mind, and I'm kind of, they're coming from, they're an internal hire or would be. So I'm like building out my courses and stuff to train them.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's exciting. I hope it's successful. And we'll see.
Sweet. All right, Val, have a good night. Enjoy your Chinese Thai food.
Thanks. You guys
Yeah,
have
Val,
a
later.
this was fun. See you.
Yep.
Bye.